with velocity. Yes.
So what is this crazy idea? I want the audience to know I know about it, but what's the crazy idea for V Day and what you're doing with your book?
Well, the crazy idea was to bring together 10 voices, and yours and mine included, of individuals that are trying to make an impact in the world and certainly see everything that's going on. And instead of looking at it as being chaos and things being, down in despair, looking at it from a perspective of what do we have the potential and possibility to create here. And when you think about the age that we're in, it's really exciting. Technology is thriving and we have AI and all these different things. But yet, as things change and evolve around us, who do we as the humans become? There's so much being put out there right now of all these different roads that we could take. And all those things are possibilities. But the truest thing that's for all humankind is that the things that we do now, the future that we create will have an impact and be the present for the generations to come. So they're going to inherit what we do. So we can either do things that will take them in a negative direction, or we could certainly do things to bring humanity even further ahead. And so I want to talk about that, not to be afraid of AI, not to be afraid of the technology, but how do we embrace it? How do we move forward, and how do we develop as humans in this new age?
So again, 5 days ago, V, the Roman numeral five, you brought up this idea, and I said, "Well, is there a V Day?" And we looked it up, and it was connected to World War II, and it was connected
Yes.
to victory over World War II, and certainly a war that at some points was at that time people were wondering, is there going to be a world? And
Mm.
when I saw Rhode Island was the only state in the entire union of 50 states, Rhode Island's the only one that has been celebrating this since 1970, I believe. And the reason why is because 1 in 10 of the citizens in Rhode Island fought in World War II. And so that was a very significant sacrifice. And I want to show a couple of things of why this day is so special for me. So, first of all, if you look at the word warrior, it's actually got two V's. And I don't think that's a coincidence. I do think it's bad that they call it a W instead of double V. It should be called a double V. But I wanted to show a couple things real quick. And then I wanted to elaborate a little bit, and then I'm going to turn the floor over to you. So there's a site called Veritasium. And this person that has the site, if you go to YouTube, for instance, actually, I'll do a new window, YouTube, and you go look at Veritasium. This gentleman is actually hitting home runs left and right. Veritasium. So Veritasium is right here, and this guy has got 21 million followers, and he's a scientist. He speaks the truth. He finds the truth, and I've never opened one of his and not enjoyed the depth in which he got 18 million here, 70 million here, 10 million here. So my point in sharing this with you, Paul, is that you hit a chord when you put the V up, because as a chemistry teacher, and the VE being the chemical of truth, Veritasium, I was just down with how many people you could bring that could speak about the power of V, especially in a victorious. I mean, for me, having the Smile Channel and having 700 people join the Smile Channel, they're one percenters, and I'm really happy to see some people on this speaking schedule that are going to really shake it up. I mean, this is going to be a very huge topic, and you're planting the seed for next year of not having, 10 people, but possibly having 50 or even 100 people speak about exactly this topic. The last thing I just want to share right now is that anybody who wants to be with Paul and the speakers and learn more from them, there is a site called the Smile Channel, and it is actually a site that celebrates one percenters, specifically authors, podcasters, and speakers, but it also celebrates influencers, artists, musicians. And to give you an idea how easy this site is to navigate, you can see I mean, he's a Super Bowl champion. This guy wrote The Shack. This is the number one marketer in the world. He's the number one storyteller in the world. I mean, this guy has 53,000 followers on YouTube. But you can look up, if you don't know how to spell Paul's last name, you can just put Paul. And next thing you know, this is like the link tree of PR. So you can go to his website, you can go to his LinkedIn, his Instagram, and you can see some of the shows and the reason why we believe in him so much. So Paul, I just want to say it's an honor to know you. You are a friend, a brother, a champion, and someone I'm excited to represent and help any way I can.
Thank you, and I appreciate you for your partnership and all your trust and belief in me.
Well, this is your time here, so I'm going to exit the stage and have a victorious talk.
Victorious talk, indeed. Thank you. And I want to welcome everyone who is here, not simply to an event and not simply to just to a conversation about artificial intelligence, and not simply just to another gathering where we collect more ideas about the future already that's already arriving faster than most of us can actually fully comprehend. Today, we're gathered here for at a threshold between the world that humanity has known and the world that humanity is now creating. And for most of human history, intelligence was scarce. The knowledge had to be sought, expertise had to be developed, answers were protected by distance and institutions and access and time, and more importantly, privilege. But now we stand in a very different reality. Intelligence now is generated. I've been in classes where we can clone ourselves. So therefore, knowledge can be summoned. Language can be manufactured at any moment. Images, ideas, decisions, strategies, even versions of human presence can be produced at extraordinary speed. And this power will continue to expand. And so the question is no longer whether artificial intelligence can or will change the world. It already has. Uh, the most consequential question that we can ask is whether humanity will evolve in relationship to the power that it's creating. And so the question, when intelligence can be manufactured, what must humanity become? That's why we're here. Not to compete with the machines, not to romanticize the past, not to even fear the future, and certainly not to declare that technology is the enemy. Technology in this case is the amplifier. It can amplify our wisdom, it can amplify our creativity, and it can amplify access to human possibility. But it can also amplify confusion, right? And spin up bias, and increase fragmentation, and certainly promote manipulation and an unexamined ambition, and power that has matured faster than consciousness is actually guiding it. Artificial intelligence may be the most revealing mirror that humanity has ever built. Because the deeper question is not only what our technology can do, it's what will we ask it to do? What will we permit it to decide? What will we surrender because discernment is difficult? What will we accelerate before we have considered the consequences? And who will we become when capability is no longer the defining measure of human distinction? There is a human problem beneath the technology question. And I believe that we have confused knowing with becoming. We have mistaken information for integration, visibility for significance, connection for relationship, performance for wholeness, and awakening for embodiment. I'll say that again, an awakening for embodiment. We have learned how to say more than we actually live, claim more than we actually practice, project more than we actually have integrated, and scale influence faster than we have developed the inner capacity to hold it in, in our being. This distance, this distance between what we know and what we value and what we say and how we live is where the future of humanity is now being decided. Because knowledge is no longer scarce, neither is information, but embodiment is. This is where the idea of verified human begins. The verified human is not a perfect human being. It's certainly not your identity. It's not certified by identity. It's not a person without contradiction. It's not someone who has arrived at a finished state and now can stand all above the rest of us. A verified human being is a person who's willing to see the gap, willing to examine the gap without shame and without self deprecation or self deception, willing to close the distance between belief and behavior, willing to allow their values to become visible through their choices, must be willing to make conscious accountable to the consequences. So verification is not the absence of the gap. Verification is the ongoing commitment to closing it. It's daily. And that commitment matters because the world we are creating will not be shaped by intelligence alone. It will be shaped by the consciousness that directs intelligence, the values that constrain it, the bodies and nervous systems making decisions under pressure, the quality of our relationships, the integrity of our leadership, the moral imagination that determines not merely what can be done, but what should be done. This gathering today is called the Verified Human Be Day. And today, as Ken kind of shared, victory does not mean just victory over technology. We talk about World War II and all that. But it does not mean victory over another person either. It doesn't mean victory over another nation, over another ideology, or a victory over the way we're seeing the world. The victory that I'm talking about is much quieter, more intimate, and far more demanding. It's the victory over fragmentation. It's the victory over unconsciousness. It's the victory over the surrender of our attention. Over the distance between what we profess and how our lives reveal. It is decision to become more whole in a world becoming more complex, becoming more discerning in a world becoming more persuasive, being more embodied in a world becoming more synthetic, and becoming more responsible in a world where the choices can travel further and affect more people than ever before. It's not a victory that we declare once, it's a victory that we practice and verify daily. So today's gathering will unfold through 10 human transmissions, this being the first. And there are 10 V lenses or 10 verification lenses, 3 movements, 1 defining inquiry. We begin with vision, and then we move through 8 human voices, each entrusted with 1 distinct uh, lens, which focuses on the much larger question. We will discover what is happening to the human. Then we will awaken to what must be reclaimed, and then we will evolve into the responsibility that this movement now requires. At the completion of the first transmission, we'll move through vigilance, and then we will move through volition, and then veracity and vitality and vulnerability, values, virtue, and voice. And we will conclude in verification or the vow. So think of it this way: vision, voices, vow. Not 10 separate talks, 1 ceremonial inquiry, which is going to be carried through the 10 transmissions. So now it's important to know that the voices that you hear today have not been invited because they possess perfect answers. They have been invited because their lives and their work have brought them into an honest relationship with a necessary part of the question. Therefore, they've been asked to speak from what they have lived, not merely from what they know. And I and Ken ask the same of you. You're not here as a passive audience if you're watching. You're here as a witness, as a reflector, as a participant in the future this gathering is asking us to imagine and embody. As we begin this conversation, I invite all of you into a simple covenant. Enter with curiosity. Listen for what's true, not merely for what confirms what you already believe, but allow complexity without abandoning your clarity. And then honor the difference without surrendering responsibility. Try to resist the impulse to reduce humanity to a problem technology must solve. And before we leave, be willing to embody at least one truth that you encounter here today. You may hear something today that affirms what you already know, but I want to challenge you to listen more closely for what unsettles you. It's going to be a sentence that exposes a distance in your life, a story that returns you to something that you had forgotten, a question that follows you beyond the screen, the responsibility you can no longer ask someone else to carry. And then notice what your mind understands as well as what your body recognizes. Notice where you feel the resistance, where you might feel grief, where you might feel possibility, where something within you quietly says, this is mine to live. Because the future is not something that's merely happening to us, it is being created and verified through us, through what we attend to, through what we normalize, through what we ignore, through what we build, through what we refuse, through what we teach, through how we lead, and through how we love. And more importantly, how faithfully our lives confirm the truths that we claim to hold. So let me be clear one more time that we're not gathered because we believe humanity is broken or beyond repair. We are gathered because humanity is powerful beyond preparation, and because power without inner development does not remain neutral. It amplifies whatever we have not yet examined. This is our threshold moment, not technologically alone, a human one. The invitation is not to become less human in order to keep pace with our machines. It's to become more awake, more integrated, more courageous, more compassionate, more truthful, and more capable of governing our power without being governed by it. So this transmission is the vision. And we're going to begin with the question that holds everything that we will encounter today. And the question is this: when intelligence can be manufactured, what must humanity become? And as you hear that question, don't rush to answer it right away. Instead, allow the next 8 voices that you hear to deepen it. And then allow your own life into the inquiry. And as we cross this threshold together, begin listening to the question beneath the questions. What is my life being asked to verify now? Our first movement is discover. The threshold is what's happening to the human being. And our first guest voice invites us into the conversation around vigilance, the courage to see clearly before consequence makes seeing unavoidable. And I welcome you to humanity at the threshold. And so as we get ready to introduce our first guest, I want to give some background on our first guest, this amazing human being. And so our next voice is a fire starter, a change maker, an investor, entrepreneur, and educator. Formerly the Bulgarian Minister of Innovation and Growth, she has shaped policy and built ecosystems at the intersection of technology, youth empowerment, and business. Prior to that, she was the CEO of Junior Achievement Bulgaria for over 15 years. Wow. And a long-standing member of the JA Worldwide Leadership Team. Today, she's co-founder and CEO of The Edge. I'm bringing to you Milena Stoicheva.
Thank you, Paul. It's really, really great to be here. What a fun, it actually brings a smile to me. It's not by chance that this is the Smiley, Dr. Smiley channel. Smile to me to see you here hosting this verified human being transmissions, as you put it, I believe very insightfully. And to be able to share some thoughts that I believe are relevant for all of us nowadays, as we are witnessing this exponential speed with which technology is really, in a way, taking our lives. We could think, is technology taking our lives for good, or is it actually the moment when we can start questioning ourselves what exactly technology is for? Is it part of our bigger picture of where we are, of how we developed as human race? Or is it actually here to paradoxically question us whether we need to pay more attention to who we are as human beings and what we bring to this world? So thank you for also choosing this special, let's say, aspect or feature for me related to vigilance. It kind of really speaks to me. Why is that? Because I do relate vigilance to a number of features. One of them is about courage. And why about courage? Because I really believe it takes a lot of guts and standing up for what your values are nowadays, and choosing that over choosing to speak what is convenient. So for me, vigilance without fear or with guts, true vigilance, is not about paranoia. It's about being informing yourself and being clear about who you are and how you continue living with integrity in this world. So it's the ability also to remain attentive without being allowing the fear to overwhelm you, and without actually, in fact, learning to question that fear and to stand up for it. And I think this is quite a lot related to something I've been actually supporting and promoting in my life as an educator and seeing as a mission, but preaching about the importance of entrepreneurial mindset and the importance of taking responsibility as part of who you are as human being. And now in the age of I think we will be seeing even more and more the importance of taking that position and standing up for being truthful to your values and having the guts and the courage to say maybe no or maybe yes sometimes, with regards to where you are and what you stand up for. Another feature that I believe is extremely important, and it's very much related again to vigilance, is the ability to be aware and to see in the future somewhat, to be more alert and be aware and see forward what the trend is and where things are going. And I remember I was sharing with Paul in some previous conversations that it almost seems to me now that we are already moving into the age of Blade Runner. This used to be part of the format through which I was using scenarios of battles and scientific scenarios from movies when we were teaching about 7, 8, 10 years ago in the classes of innovation and entrepreneurship, master degree or PhD students. And at the time, it really seemed as if this was going to be something in the future, in the movies. And yet, very soon, we're realizing that it's part of our life. And so one part that particularly struck me and that I again related to being vigilant and being alert is when I compare this to how entrepreneurs discover opportunities. And they wouldn't be able to discover them if they don't have the eyes, if they don't have the eyes open or the ears open to hear or to see what is in front of them, which means that one needs to really stay very much with an open eye, being alert and aware of where the trends are, of what is happening in the world, and just not assume that one knows what is meant for us to be. So in this age of new intelligence, artificial intelligence, this is what we would be called for, to stay more alert, to be more awake, to be really with sharpened, stronger senses, and be able to apply critical thinking and the ability to question all of the information. Because even by having this maintaining this quality, we will be even much more able to support the development in the right direction of this new intelligence, which I believe will become part of our joint human intelligence, collective intelligence. And collective vigilance connects with collective intelligence. And most probably, the collective vigilance is the strongest form of vigilance because it is shared. So individuals, to me, this relates to the fact that everyone needs to start working together. I'm a very big proponent of ecosystems and of the fact that we are very much interconnected, and we need to bring much more harmony and synergy to this collective and collective vigilance and collective intelligence. So if we are staying and being appreciative of being well connected, but also connected to take us together to the next level, I think we will be also stronger in coming up with solutions that we need to provide for the huge challenges that we have ahead of us, and that require every day a new action and adaptability to what's happening around us. So most probably I want to finish with this last point about we need vigilance for the future. And perhaps the most powerful angle for this is we're not only vigilant about what is happening today, but we need to be very vigilant. We need to be courageous, to have the guts, to be aware, to be prepared, and to be very clear about what we are creating for tomorrow, how we are preparing the grounds for the impact that we will make in the world with our actions today. So for me, vigilance is not about expecting the worst. It is about being prepared to recognize what matters now, what is the most important to us as human beings. Respond or react responsibly. This is what responsibility means, to respond to the environment with integrity, and respond when it matters in the right moment. And then the last point, really stand up for the values or protect what matters. So vigilance without fear means, to me, awareness with responsibility and with moving to action rather than keeping things only to the stage of words.
All right. I love it. Thank you so much for that transmission around vigilance. I think that there are so many obviously great points. I love when you started talking about collective vigilance and it being the responsibility for all of us, right? And it does start with that awareness, but then what are you going to do next? And and the things that we understand that we're responsible for. I think those are going to be the things that we take forward for the future because we're creating that now. I mean, that's the thing. You and I had this conversation a couple of days ago, maybe it was, and I said we've
Yes.
inherited all the dreams and vision from the generations before us.
Mm.
That became our present, and everything that we do, all the decisions that we make now moving forward, will be the present for the generations to come. And so we
Yes.
have a responsibility to think about what we're doing moving forward. And so I love that. Um, you shared a lot around um, our human capacity, and I really just think, I have one question because you shared a lot of things that I was going to ask, so I'm not going to
Yes.
recap those
Yes.
things. But I think it's good. But I think it's good to acknowledge, the central theme here. But when you're thinking about where vigilance is being tested with you, um, what is that truth that's being tested with you and verified in your own life? Like how does this line up for you in your experience personally?
Oh, thank you, Paul. It's it's a good question because I've been asking it myself, and I realized that throughout my life I've had to prove it many times.
Mm,
Maybe that's why I feel so comfortable with it because
mm,
it can really put you on your toes sometimes, testing how much you really want to stay truthful to who you are. And to me, this is
mm,
what vigilance is about. Because I did choose to have a certain value system and to have a way of being that seems to be one of the things that I really appreciate and stand stand up for. So to me, in all of my different, let's say, transformations and interpretations of in my life of doing different things, I have seen that there is nothing higher for me than the values I choose,
mm,
and I cannot make compromises with this. And I chose to be this versus could be easier. Actually, it could have been easier. And I've been called from Don Quixote type of person to really crazy lady that wants to do things that seem impossible. And then at the same time, after some time, I see that this has been the right thing to do because it's been embraced later on. So I have to say that it's not been easy to stand up for this, but I will always choose to go forward
mm,
with those values. And I've been both in business, in private sector, in education, and in public space. And I see it that for me there's just no other way but to do that.
mm,
That is why it's very important that we share this, because I think it's powerful when people see that others who are like them can do it. They get inspired. And I believe we need to spread this word that we are these living bodies that are practicing this. And
right.
and and it's not only possible, it's actually the way to go. And we
Yeah.
don't have to be scared. So just go on with what you believe,
Mm,
what stick with it.
yeah. So what I'm hearing is embody the choice, right? And then continue to choose no matter what the environment is and the environment that we're in. And I think that is really the essence, right? Is the choice, the power of choice. Milena, I thank you for your voice, for your transmission, for you sharing all that you have around vigilance and even your own personal experience and story. Um, you are an inspiration and a
Thank you,
fire
Paul.
starter.
Yeah, thank you. Great to be together on this, and I really congratulate you for making this choice to go with this, and look forward to sharing more.
Awesome. Thank you so
Hearing
much.
the others. Thank you.
And indeed. And then we're going to transition to our third transmission here in a moment, the crisis of attention. And so the lens we're going to look at and explore is the lens of volition, still under the movement of Discover, actually. And our next voice is a performance expert, an author, and self sabotage specialist, bringing curiosity and lightness to the world of mental fitness. She is a former international opera singer, spent 25 years on professional stages and mentored others, encountering firsthand the hidden patterns that shape human performance. She helps people investigate the internal pressures that build self command and minimize stress and maximize performance well-being in relationships. So I'm going to bring to the stage now Christina Driscoll. And here we go, my friend. How are we doing today?
Greetings, sir. It's so good to be here with you today. Thank you for the honor of this opportunity to
Absolutely.
be.
Absolutely. Honor is mine and everyone else's because we're going to hear your voice on this transmission. I am excited to hear everything you shared today about volition. Important part of this conversation. And I'm just honored to have you here. So I'm going to give you the stage and step out of your way, and then I will come back here in a few minutes.
Sounds good. Okay, as Paul mentioned, my voice is here today to share with you about the crisis of attention, and specifically the subject of volition, or having the capacity to choose. And the contemplative question that went along with that was to talk about how, in a world engineered to capture and shape our attention, what is happening to our capacity to choose who we become. And I really feel like this is it's a two-part answer, because attention is one thing and volition is another. And while they are connected, I think it's important for us to look for a moment at attention first. There's a lot of energy swirling around the amount of information and knowledge and intelligence that is readily available to us and being presented in front of us and competing for our attention now more than ever. But personally, I don't think that's the issue. I think the mind is wonderfully adaptable. Even Milena was talking about how we need to adapt and become aware. And we've been doing this as humans since the beginning of time. So to say that the mind was never designed to handle the kinds of information and the speed of information we're receiving, well, I'm not sure we even know that, because we've never had the opportunity before. And so to see the adaptability of the mind is something I think we will just continue to witness, and for each of us to be a part of ourselves. I think the bigger issue is the ratio of attentional focus split between two things. One, the attention outside of ourselves. So this is everything vying for our attention, everything we're paying attention out in the world, the circumstances, other people, events, the things that we are trying to create and bring into our own world for ourselves, the things outside of us, and the attention within. And to me, this is the true crisis of attention, because this is where we either find or lose ourselves along the journey. It's really not out there. The information is going to continue to be out there. It's going to continue to grow. It's going to be continued as part of our innovative and evolutionary process. So it's really much more about how much of the span we have available to us are we focusing within. There are vast amounts of stimuli trying to solve problems for us all the time, because that's our primal survival link. It's this primary mission to survive that taught us to pay attention to problems. And so over time, the things vying for our attention learned that. If I let you know there's a problem and we have the solution, that's the way for me to get your attention. We are all primally linked to that through our DNA. And so this kind of problem solving is something that's not only increasing to grow within us, but also increasing to grow as something that's presented in front of us. And now with such speed and such capacity that it can become overwhelming. And I think because of our connection as humans to survival and paying attention to problems, as that has multiplied, I think it has caused us as a whole to have an addiction to problem solving. And who we wish to become is at the center of that. And that's really what leads to this part on volition, that as more and more comes to ask for our attention and people become more and more distracted by that, it's becoming evident that a critical skill is missing. I mean, everyone has the ability to choose. Most everyone has the ability to choose, but the capacity to choose is something else entirely. And that's based on the ability to command your mind to focus on what you wish to focus on. And for most people, that is a severely underdeveloped part of the mind. And I think that's the most challenging for smart people, because smart people tend to think, well, I know, therefore I'm just going to do it. So they continue to consume the information. More information means I will be able to do more, thinking that any part of the knowledge is going to be the problem solver. But that's not how the mind works. So the bottom line is this: the more things outside of ourselves are introduced to capture and shape our attention, the more vital it is to strengthen the mind's capacity for self-command. And to me, that answers this question. When everything is competing for your attention, what determines what wins? Because most people think they're in charge of their mind, but they're not. And I am my own case study in this. As I built my own business, starting well over a decade ago, I felt immense pressure to succeed at this. I was naturally a performance-driven person, having that background in opera and performance for many years. And as I started to build this, I became the sole provider in my family. And so I felt a lot of pressure to make things happen. And even though I was creating success, even though I was making money, I started to feel anxious and agitated and even frustrated because other things were distracting me from my work. That one thing that was going to allow me to provide for everything else and to create success in my own life. And ironically, having that kind of attitude and energy toward what I was doing started to create a strain in everything else. And so my relationship became strained. My marriage became strained, almost to the point where we decided we were going to call it quits. And it was right along that same time that I really started learning about self-command and learning how to train my brain to literally rewire the neural pathways in my brain to give me the opportunity of choice. Now, I didn't even realize this was an issue. I thought I was a smart person, and so why was that even an issue? And I didn't realize until that point that I had a choice in the way that I felt. I had a choice into where I directed my attentional focus, but it was something that I had to build as a skill. It was like going to the gym. You couldn't just look at the machines and say, yeah, I know how to use those. Yeah, I've seen them a couple times. I even used a few, and expect to see results. It was something that I had to show up for over and over and over again. And it wasn't difficult. It just took commitment. And through that commitment, I started creating a ripple effect that completely changed the environment of my existence. Not only did my stress lessen, not only did that anxiety and that agitation and frustration dissolve, I saw a complete change in my husband and the way that he reacted to me. And it began to change everything else, how people reacted to him because of how his energy changed. And it created this chain of events, all because of my work on developing the capacity to choose. So, my contemplation question from this becomes this for all of us. How much of the person you are did you choose? Because that's something that takes deep inquiry. And so, what will you do to ensure that you have the capacity to choose who you wish to become?
I love it. I love it. Christina, let that last reflection sit, right? Because I think that's the whole thing. We're talking about choice with Atlanta. Um, and we're talking about the same thing here now. We have the capacity to choose, and we really have to contemplate that question. Who do we want to become? Um, Attention is so scarce these days, and which you kind of highlighted, and I think you've answered a lot of questions that most people would answer, that would ask you. On there were a couple of things that you shared that I don't have to ask this question now. So there's some good things there. But I like to ask everybody the same question, right? And you know, first of all, thank you for being vulnerable and sharing like the experience you had with yourself and your family and in your marriage. I think those are the things that we as human beings we all experience something very similar, but if we never talk about those things, we don't see the truth in those things. And so, um, how do you manage that today? Right, in this moment? I mean, there are things obviously that you've overcome, but how do you consistently stay on track to continue to manage and choose where you put your attention?
The best way I describe this is by looking at it like going to the gym. You can say you overcame by going to the gym. I want a stronger body. I want to feel healthier. I want to oxygenate the cells in my body. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to show up. I'm going to commit to it. And you do that and you get there and you say, great. But you can't stop, or you just end up going back to the way you were. So, and the mind is the exact same. I mean, you can build these neural pathways in your brain, but if you don't use them, you lose them. They begin to atrophy, and other neural pathways will start to become stronger. So if you don't feel like you are choosing the things that you wish, and this is how I prove to everybody that they're not doing that. I mean, who would sign up to feel frustrated, anxious, annoyed, jealous, angry, disempowered, fearful? Who signed up for that program? Anybody? Did anybody say, oh my gosh, yes, that sounds fantastic? No, no one signed up for that. And yet that's the way that so many of us feel. So that tells me there's something going on where our brain is sending us over to these one areas to have this kind of reaction or feeling about something, because we haven't strengthened the other areas and given ourselves the pathway to where choice is even a possibility. We all have the ability, it's the capability. So what I do is show up every day. I don't use my intellect or my ego anymore to
Mhm.
say, oh, I've done that work. I don't need to do that
Yeah.
anymore. I've done it. It's showing up every single day that ensures the work stays in place, to ensure that my ability to see when that happens doesn't take over me, that it lasts for a moment, not hours or days, or weeks into my existence. I mean, we're all humans, so we're going to have those moments. We're going to have
Mhm.
those times where we feel that frustration, feel that worry, feel that agitation. But once you feel it, if you have the capacity to choose, you start to understand and to have the strength in your mind to realize you can move yourself over there. And it's not willpower. It's not something you can force. Just like I said, you can't look at a 100-pound weight and be like, I'm going to pick that up. And just think you're
Yeah.
going to grab it and just like make yourself pick it up. If you can't, you can't until you've built the body up enough to have enough strength to do that. And the mind works the exact same way.
Yeah. I love it. And so the thing is, we have to practice and we have to be consistent. And these are the things that we all know, right? The information is there. It's about embodying it. And even when things get tough, to keep moving forward and to keep trying until we get to a place where we actually build the capacity and increase our capacity to do it. I love it so much, Christina, Chris. Such a beautiful time with you. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, your knowledge in this area of religion. And I look forward to talking to you again really soon. Such an amazing, powerful voice. And just one last thing, because I didn't do this the last time, but I'm actually going to catch up with everybody now. Where are you from? Where are you
Where
located?
am I from, or where am I
Where are you located? Where are you
tuning in
located,
from?
right?
I
Yeah,
am
tuning in from.
I'm in Northern California, about 2 hours
Oh,
south of the Oregon border.
okay, that's awesome. That's awesome. And Milena was from Bulgaria, for those who were listening and heard her speak earlier. We have an international crowd, so I think it's worth telling everybody where everyone is tuning in from or showing up from, um, because it's important. And I think, we're making impact. And so thank you again, Christina. I look forward to continuing our conversation, and thank you for joining me on this journey.
My honor.
So
Thank you
we're
so
going
much.
to, thank you. Now we're going to transition to transmission number 4, the unverified self. And the lens we're going to look at that or explore is the lens of veracity. And our next voice is a serial entrepreneur, an author, a speaker with over 26 years of experience building, scaling, and selling multi-million dollar companies. He's a visionary leader with a proven track record, and he has transformed bold ideas into profitable reality is combining discipline, systems, and decisive leadership with the art of execution. I bring to you now our next voice, Dan Saskowski. My brother
Hey
Dan, how are you
man,
doing?
how are you, brother? Paul, appreciate the opportunity, and it's an honor to be here on this platform with you and your team. So I guess I'll get right into it.
Yes, sir.
The biggest lie I ever told wasn't to another person; it was actually to myself. And the dangerous thing about lying to yourself is that eventually you believe it. And once you believe your own story, you actually stop to put yourself to a pause where you don't even examine your own life anymore. So everyone talks about AI and what AI is doing, and AI is going to change the world and all this stuff. And today, AI can write a perfect post about integrity in 4 seconds. It can write a mission statement. It can write your speech. May have wrote some people's speeches here. Who knows? It can write something about your family, your faith, your freedom, your purpose, and can make all that stuff sound so deep humanly. But here's what it can't do: it can't live your Tuesday. It can't decide where you're actually going to spend your time. It can't show up for your children. It can't repair relationships that are maybe broken. It can't keep the promises that you've made to yourself a long time ago. and it can't live your values for you. So over the years, I spent thousands of hours with successful entrepreneurs and business owners, successful people, people who can tell you, exactly what they value, whether it's family first, freedom, integrity, purpose, whatever it is. They probably got it written somewhere on their wall, or their mission statement, or in their planner, or who knows. But I've watched the same person miss their kids' games 3 weeks in a row, just to close another deal that they probably didn't need. And I say that not judging them, but most people say they do things for a certain reason. And the reality is they don't. They may think it's that reason, but that reason truly gets what's left of their time. So that's the gap I'm here to talk about. Not the gap between what we know. It's the gap between what we know and what we don't know. It's the gap between what we say we value in our life and what actually matters in our lives that we're verifying every single day with what we're doing. Whether we're paying attention or not to the things that we say are a priority. I built my first business at 17 with pure grit. I was building houses by the time I was 21. I made real money. I'm talking about, millions of dollars in my early 20s. And then by 24, I lost every bit of it. I didn't have systems, but I had grit. I had hustle. I had ego. I had confidence. And I was wearing that business suit, every single day that, this is who I'm supposed to be. So after losing it all, I had to continue to rebuild this thing, this life, more than once. And eventually you get pretty good at it. I learned that systems, I learned that leadership, I learned, how to build companies that, didn't need me every waking hour. And eventually I became good enough to stand in front of rooms and tell other business owners how to get their lives back. But here's the part that I haven't always talked about. I became really good at helping other people build their lives. And that was something that I was still struggling to fully live myself. And that's very hard to admit, because most people train or talk about or try to influence or try to encourage people on their default. Not because I was intentionally misleading anybody. I wasn't. I genuinely believe that what I was teaching was right. And I genuinely believe that I had all the right answers. The only difference was my life just wasn't giving me the same answers. I could tell you that my family came first, but sometimes my calendar said business came first. I could tell you presence mattered, but I could be sitting in a room with the people I loved while I was mentally thinking about deadlines that I had to meet. I could tell you my health mattered until one day life interrupted every excuse that I still had. And just 4 years ago, literally 7 days ago, was the 4-year anniversary. I had a heart attack. And when something stops you like that, you don't hide behind your stories anymore. You don't get to hide behind your company, your money, your title, your accomplishments. What you get is the truth of what you've actually done, because, hey, your time is up. And the truth was that my calendar was not organizing my priorities. It was actually exposing them, telling me what I told myself I was busy doing for the reasons why I was doing them. But I was leaving out all those things and reasons why I was supposed to be showing up every day. And one of the hardest things that I had to understand was this: my sons or daughter, they didn't need another wire transfer to come into my business. They needed their father. Money solved a lot of problems in my life. Presence, being there, built a lot of relationships with people I still know today. But somewhere along the line, I had confused the two of them. And that's what happens when distance gets too wide between what we believe and what we actually show up and how we live. Eventually, life will catch you. And I got caught in my own trap. And for the first time, instead of defending the gap, I started trying to close it. And today I'm still closing it. And that's important to understand because I don't stand here as somebody who figured it all out. I'm still figuring it out. We're going to figure things out for the rest of our life as we grow, situations grow, problems grow. We have to put our attention to becoming better and showing up better. I still get distracted. I still work too much sometimes. I still have moments where, what I say matters, but something else gets my attention. And those things sometimes don't completely match. The difference today is, though, I'm willing to look. And maybe that's where the verification actually begins. Not with perfection, but with honesty. Like a lot of people can't take me because I'm super real and I'm super truthful. And I'm going to tell you all the things that, I didn't want to hear about myself, about you. And, living in that life and living in that transformation is very difficult because we got to pull ourselves out of that comfort stage. Because we're entering an era where, anybody can generate the good language of a good life. Hey, AI, what would a good life look like? A machine can write better values for you and how you show up. It can write your mission statement. It can give you the right answer to many things. But it's never going to tell you how to be a great father or what a great father looks like or how he's supposed to show up or what leadership is actually developed like, because if you're not doing it and proving it, it's irrelevant. I had a failed marriage and I didn't know the recipe of being a good spouse. So now today, if that ever comes about again, like I may understand, hey, I've got to look at things differently. But AI is not going to teach me how to be the best spouse or the best partner or anything human that I should really be doing day in and day out. But understand that was never the hard part. The hard part is proving that you're showing up and being the person that you committed yourself a long time ago to show up and be. And the hard part is living in the example of change and being different. Nobody can outsource where you spend your Tuesday. Nobody can automate where, you're present when your child needs you or if they need your attention or if they want you to help them or if you're supposed to be at a game. That's not automation. That's real life integration. Nobody can generate your integrity. Nobody can outsource your character. You're doing that yourself day in and day out. And nobody can ever close the gap in your life besides you. So I'm not going to tell you to write another mission statement. I'm not going to tell you to go get a vision board. I'm not going to tell you to go write another book or read another book. And I'm definitely not going to tell you to ask AI to write a better version of you and who you should be and how you should show up. Instead, ask your life. Pull up your calendar from the last 30 days. I just put out a podcast about this today. It went live this morning about your calendar says it all. And it's just crazy that I'm even talking about this today and how it lined up. Look at where all your time went in the last 30 days. Look at where your money went. Look at where your attention went. Look who got the best version of you and who got what was left over of that version of you. Because if you have children, your children already know what you value. Your partner knows what you value. Your employees know. Your calendar knows. Your bank account knows. Your habits know. These tell you the results every day. Your life has been voting day in and day out. The only question is whether you'll be willing to read the results. Because your life always tells the truth long before your mouth ever does. So I leave you with one question. If you look at your life and you took the witness stand today on your life and your calendar was called as your first witness, would it testify for you or would it testify against you? And here's the good news. Tomorrow's testimony hasn't even been written yet. Every decision, every conversation, every apology, every act of courage, every moment of present gives us another opportunity to close that gap. Not to become perfect, but to be a little more aligned with the person we keep telling the world we want to be or we're supposed to be. Your life always tells the truth, make sure it's telling the story that you actually want it to tell. Appreciate the time, Paul.
Like Dan, thank you very much, my brother, for that transmission. Lots of things pop out, being the best version of yourself versus being the leftover version of yourself, choosing where you spend your time, life telling the truth no matter what. And I just want to acknowledge and you're sharing, a very intimate part of yourself. And, a lot of us feel like, when we see people that are in different spaces than we are in life, that we think that they got it all together and that everything is perfect. And I think that sometimes no matter what we're doing and we're teaching, sometimes it becomes difficult to live our life the way we're teaching other people to do it. And it's not that we're being disingenuine or that we're living out of integrity. It's just that sometimes we kind of prioritize what we're giving versus how we're living. And so I want to thank you for sharing that and bringing that message back home to where it's grounded with us. I have one question for you. It's going to be the same question that I've been asking everyone else, and you've kind of already alluded to this, but how do you ensure that you live this today, like what, and manage the things that can get in the way and pull you away from being the Dan that you choose to be?
Well, I'm not going to beat myself up about it.
Mm,
I'm not going to try and create another complicated plan. I'm just going to tell myself the truth, right?
mm,
Find one place every day where your life doesn't match up, where you say things matter. That's the first thing that I do every day, and make the
mm,
decision to close that gap. Because how that gap got created in the first place, we got to figure out now how to reverse engineer it and close it. And it's usually not a giant decision, it's something very small. But through these hundreds of small, changes and things that we do, we can then eventually show up as living proof of how we're telling people they should live. And I believe that's just the way that we close all of those things from our past so that we don't have to fight for our future. Faith has taught me that I'm not nearly as in control as I thought I was. And for a
mm,
long time, I wanted God to bless the life I was building. And today I spend a lot more time asking him whether I'm building the life that he actually wants me to live. And that's a very different conversation. And I think my faith and facing my faith has forced me to look beyond like success and ask the question about purpose, stewardship, relationship, and who I'm becoming in the process of this, because we are a mirror of what we extract, right? So at the end of the day,
mhm.
I want to make sure that what's around me is developed because of who I am.
I love that. I love that. And it goes right back to what I was sharing earlier when I opened this up. There's a gap, and being able to identify the gap and working towards closing the gap is part of what it is. And doing that proactively, asking the hard questions and really telling ourselves the truth. And not only telling ourselves the truth, but accepting the truth of what it is. And then thinking, what do I need to do now to make that more in line with who I am?
Yeah.
And so I really appreciate the communication, the transmission you shared today, all the questions. Dan, where are you joining us from today?
Right now I'm in Florida.
Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome. Down that not too far away, but close enough.
Yeah, I'm on the other coast.
On the other coast. Well, Dan, thank you again. Really appreciate you. We're going to transition into the next movement. And you're appreciated. And we will transition to the next speaker. And the next transition or transmission will be the transmission of, we're going to go, yes, transmission of human connection. And we're going to have a conversation, explore the V lens of vulnerability. And we are in a new movement now, the movement of Awaken. And I just want to share a couple things about Awaken, because now it's not so much that we're meeting a threshold, it's who do we need to become? What do we need to remember um, about ourselves, about the human being, about humanity? And our next voice is going to talk a little bit about vulnerability. She is an executive coach, feminist theologist, and ceremonialist who bridges science and the sacred. She has a PhD in industrial organizational psychology, and over a decade advising founders and executives through identity transition. She pairs nervous system science with the study of embodiment, Christian mysticism, and feminine wisdom traditions. Her research on leadership and burnout appears in the Journal of Business Psychology. As the co-founder of The Garden, she guides women through deep inner work toward embodiment, lived authority, and change. And my friend and another beautiful human that's going to give a transmission here is Dr. Lauren Gordon. Lawrence.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I am glad you're here. I'm glad you said yes to this journey. And before we start, where are you joining us from?
So I'm originally from New Jersey, East Coast, but I recently moved to Bend, Oregon. So whole other coast. Yeah.
Whole other thing, indeed. Well, thank you for being here, for saying yes, for stepping onto the stage. And the transmission is all yours. I'm going to step back and let you have the stage.
Thank you. Okay.
Right.
Hi, everyone. So first off, I just want to give my gratitude for this question and this opportunity actually to speak on this question of vulnerability and connection and community. I don't think it takes an economist or a mystic or a psychic to look at what's occurring in the world and see how unbelievably divided we are. And how much pain we're actually in because of it. The amount of disconnection that is present. I mean, you could look even just like on a one-on-one level, the loneliness epidemic. You could look at what's happening on a global scale in terms of wars. You could look at what's happening in the US political field in terms of really the fact that there are likely structures and systems that would like nothing more than for me to believe that certain people are my enemy. So what does it look like to be fully human, to actually usher in a new type of world in the face of these kinds of forces? And also it feels really important to say, when we look at technology today, right? Like I can get on ChatGPT and I can run an email through and make sure that I never risk emotional exposure. I can get on social media and have the illusion of connection without actually being connected. I actually think I can go online at this point. I don't know this for sure, but I think I can go online at this point and find like a boyfriend or a partner who's AI based and get all of my emotional needs met seemingly without the actual messiness of what relationship takes. And so it feels important to start not with a bunch of high-minded claims about what we should be stepping into, but of actually naming that it is completely understandable that we wouldn't want to risk the emotional exposure that comes from true relationship, like real community. I noticed that one of the places we speak a lot about community as this high-minded thing, as we will find our community, we will find our people, and then I'll feel held and I'll feel a sense of trust and love and everything will be okay. But the reality is so much messier than that. And I'd actually pause. I can't see everybody in the audience, but I would actually have you pause and look. When did you learn that community wasn't safe? When did you learn that the people who love you most are the ones who could hurt you the most? We all carry these stories and this armor that makes these ways in which technology can be beautiful. Yes, like I'm so grateful because it allows me to be here talking to you today. But it also allows me to stay in my foxhole, to stay inside of my protection that I have very carefully constructed over the course of my life to never have to come into full contact with you. And vulnerably, for me, I'll tell you that I spent most of my life, I got a PhD by the age of 24. I spent most of my life trying to make sure that I was smart enough to be able to never actually let you all the way inside. And these are the things that we carry as humans. So when I come on here and I tell you that relationship and community is the key to the world that we want, which, by the way, that is something I believe in my bones and in my cells. That same knowing, that same trust, that same like fire in my belly, that is the thing that's going to allow us to give birth to a world that can hold us all, that does hold our brilliance and our beauty and our humanity. It is right next to all of the wounds I carry. And me needing to confront all of that to like really fully come in contact with people and with humanity. But that same humanity is the key to the thing. And so the thing I want to tell you is actually today, when I was preparing for this, I really wanted to make it neat and tidy for you. I wanted to give you a 10-point plan or a 3-point plan of just do this and this and this. And then we can unlock the possibility that is relationship, and we can solve some of the problems that we're facing as humanity. But the reality is that it's messy. There is no 3-point plan. All there is the moment after you lift your head up out of the trench. You say, I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to show up with what I do have and what I do know, even though I don't have all the answers. I'm going to let myself be with other imperfect people and figure it out. And in my reflections this morning of preparing for this, perfectly, I started doing some research. I'm a history nerd. And one of the stories that really has stuck with me about the power of relationship and what is actually possible on our planet when we lean all the way into it, the power of vulnerability, is this historical story from World War II, which is perfect given that this is called V-Day. And so on Christmas Eve in 1914, I'm sorry, not World War II, I guess that would be World War I, my bad. Along the Western Front of Belgium and Northern France, German and British soldiers had been killing each other for months, like brutal, like absolute brutality. And what ends up happening is on Christmas Eve, there's like a little bit of a lull in the fighting, and the German soldiers start bringing these little baby trees outside of their trenches. So they're hiding because they're like, if I stick my head out, if I'm vulnerable, if I expose myself, notice the parallels, I'm going to get shot. But they start just like celebrating and being humans together and just like allowing their humanity through. And they put these little trees up with these lights. And some of the German soldiers start singing Silent Night. And the British soldiers across this no man's land where all of this death has occurred hear it, and they start singing along. And then they start calling across. And then they start kind of exchanging words. And then they're singing other Christmas carols. And there are reports, this was along 2/3 of the war front of like one of the bloodiest wars in our history. And like 2/3 of this enormously violent space where those soldiers start coming out and they start playing football together. And some of them, and I'm going to try not to get choked up when I say this, some of them started doing, having funerals for their fallen friends together. And this just spontaneously started happening. Like it wasn't coordinated. Something moved through the men. And when they popped their heads out, when they had the courage to pop their heads out of the trenches, there was a moment of recognition of, hey, you are not my enemy. And they stopped fighting. And it was disruptive enough to the war that the higher ups were so angry that they actually started like changing policies. They'd rotate soldiers out so that to avoid any kind of formation of bonds. Because the reality was that if I could see your humanity, even across war-torn, violent battlefield, that I would remember that I am you, that we both sing Christmas carols, that the moment before we come out of the trench is the scariest one, but it is worth it because that's when we remember and we can create something different. So my questions for you are, number one, which trenches have you been sitting in? Which ones? Because the moment before we poke our head out, all of those narratives, I'm going to get shot. They're going to let me down. I'm going to get rejected. Why bother? I don't know enough. Those get loud. Where are you in a trench? And number two, what would the world actually look like if when we came out, that moment of recognition of, oh my God, that person is a person, was so fundamentally something we remembered that no one could take it from us. That's what we're tasked with remembering. That's what the daily practice, that is a daily practice of coming back, of getting out of the trench, of remembering that humanity and putting yourself in the way of moments where we remember. Thank you.
Amazing, amazing, Lauren. Thank you. Number one, I'm saying yes. Vulnerability is it requires you to be vulnerable.
I hate it.
It requires you to be vulnerable
Uh-huh.
but what it is, it's the actual demonstration or the embodiment of what it looks like. And I think so many people are afraid and challenged by that prospect, right? And it is the way we build connection. It is the way we build relationship and encourage and increase trust with each other, because we get to show who we truly are authentically beneath all the layers and the armor and the masks and all that stuff, and being able to share everything we've gone through to get to where we are. And we spend a lot of time talking about, the things that we've experienced that we don't like, but everything that we've experienced leads to who we are today, and whether we want to categorize it as good or bad. It really just comes down to the lessons that we take from those experiences.
Mhm.
And so I just want to, acknowledge and thank you for being the voice for this transmission. I think that there's lots of things to take away from that. Just the questions and the self-reflection um, that is that is suggested and required for us to be able to kind of uncover our own truths and then share it, right? And then grow from it. Um, question because I asked everybody the same question, but um, question is, as you think about how you are living and embodying this today, right? Just kind of what I was talking with Dan, like Dan was talking about his experience, but how is this truth around vulnerability being tested with you, like even today, right? And verified in your own life.
Yeah. Thanks for asking that, Paul, because I'm like, there are multiple answers to that. And there are some of them are like ones that are, I don't want to say canned, but I'm like, I know to speak to them in a leadership context. I can speak to how our humanity amplifies our leadership, and here's how I'm practicing that. But all of those are kind of like not what I'm practicing. Like my front line, if I'm using the same metaphor, right now is actually really around love. And one of the things I've built a really great career that I'm really, really proud of. And one of the big things that came up for me recently was like, I actually really want to like get married and have kids. And that feels as cringy as that, or like there's this feminist part of me that's like, don't say that on a webinar. Don't do that. That's a really bad idea. And it's been one of the most intense spiritual initiations that I've ever had, because it's required me to really confront where I say I'm committed to love and relationship, but I shut it down. And where I like I'll be vulnerable, but only if you go first, or I'll lean into relationship, but only if you show me that this is safe first. And I preemptively I kind of wait to be rejected before I let myself risk that emotional exposure. I'm finding my edges of what that means. And what I've needed to practice every single day is being like ruthless. Where is love present that I'm blocking? Where is love present that I actually am like doing something weird to like not let it in.
Yeah.
And it's very the Sufis talk about that, like God and
Mhm.
the divine and the beloved is everywhere, and you just remove between yourself and love, or like what's in between yourself and love. And for me, it's actually like a daily practice, which I think is important for a lot of people to hear, because we think, like, even as you hear that, you might think, I don't do that. I can promise you do if you're a human.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to be human means to have wounds. To be human means to have ego. And like, there's nothing more vulnerable and that requires like a loss of control in the way that like true relationship and belonging actually does.
Yeah.
And like being vigilant about that and choosing it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's the dichotomy of embodiment, right? It's like you have to discern where you are first, right? But how are you getting your own way? And we tend to think, we always say it's like I'm not doing those things, and it's like, oh yes I am. Oh yes I am. Right? And it's like who do we think we're performing for, right? And the thing is, life is ultimately non-performative, you know, and we have to understand that. Like, I think that we get stuck in trying to impress the next person, and you look at everything that even particularly with social media. I mean, everything is done to impress the next person,
Yes.
and we never really see who is who for real, and kind of what the things are that go on a daily basis, day in and day out. We just see the finished product, if you will, or at least the product that they want us to see. And when we stop, and think about the things that we want and the things that we are really called to do, or called to experience, and what we want to manifest in our life, the thing is, we're always doing something to get in the way of that. And then until we identify what it is and then figure out how to close that gap, it it never manifests, right? Um, and so when we talk about embodiment, as being what's going to be the differentiator between humans, not wisdom anymore, not information, it's embodiment. How willing are you to choose to take the action, to get out of your way, to remind yourself, to ask yourself the deep, hard questions on the truth, and then actually do something about it. Take some action, to corrective action, if you will, right? To shift that. So I think that it's hard because we're human, but at the same token, it's what's necessary for us to get over the fear of being who we truly are. Um, and there was something else that came to mind as you were talking to, and I wrote a question down, and yeah, it's like, because we're talking about technology again. I don't want to demonize technology, but it's like, what does vulnerability require when our identity can be curated? Because we can create anything we want to create.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And what does vulnerability require in that space
Yeah.
to you? Yeah, what is that?
It's a great question, because it's like everything. I mean, even if you look, right, there's this illusion of community on social media, even LinkedIn, which is
Mm.
fantastic. Actually, you and I didn't meet on LinkedIn. I had a moment where I was like, did we meet
No.
on like, these things are wonderful tools, and our tools have gotten so much more complicated in the ways that we can manipulate and manage like the connection to make it safe.
Mm.
And the vulnerability, like the actual vulnerability, like in this kind of changing landscape, the state of escape, what does vulnerability look like? I mean, for me, actually, and this has been mentioned in a couple other segments too. One is like really checking, hey, do my insides match my outsides?
Mm.
And part of that is around values. Like, am I embodying
Mhm.
my values out here? But also, I think this is really important for us as leaders and like executive coaches and people who are in this space, is letting people see us in process. Like,
Mm.
letting people see us in the messiness of it. We think, it's like, I have to just give you the after. Lauren's a PhD and I can give you the 10-point plan. And I love doing that, by the way. And kind of like our humanity in the moment of, oh, hey, that was actually hard to hold, or that kind of hurt my feelings, or hold on, I'm working through something, and letting ourselves be experienced as human. I actually believe that is going to become so valuable in a post-AI world, because no one's going to be willing to do it. And it's going to be risky. It's the equivalent of sticking your head out of the trench first with a lot of bullets going by. And how else are your people supposed to find you?
Right.
I don't know if I answered your question, but that's just kind of what comes to me.
No, I think that's the thing that we have to wrestle with, in this age, if you will. Not because it's doom and gloom, it's because it's part of our humanity. And if we want to differentiate ourselves from what can be manufactured, we have to be real. It requires us to be real. And I think many people don't understand the definition of real. And it's going to take vulnerability to define that. So things to think about, but I think that your transmission was amazing. Thank you so much for, again, agreeing to be here, stepping on the stage, sharing your thoughts, being vulnerable yourself, sharing your story, sharing your truths. And we are now going to transition to our next V-lens.
Thanks, Paul.
And thank you. And the next lens will be, let's see, embodied intelligence and vitality. And the next voice you're going to hear is an internationally certified mental wellness coach and consultant, award-winning international speaker, trainer, sports life strategist, and an author. She's extremely passionate about personal development through her faith and creating impact in the world. And I now want to bring up to the stage Kimberly Wardell.
Hello.
Kimberly, hello there. How are you doing today?
Excellent. How are you?
Outstanding, outstanding. Thank you for being here and jumping on the stage and just agreeing to be a voice to represent this lens of vitality. And before we get started, before I turn it over to you, let everyone know where you are joining us from.
Thank you for having me here, first of all. But I'm in from Ontario, Canada. So a little tiny town called Beamsville. It's about 40 minutes from the Niagara Falls border of Canada and the United States.
Nice. Very nice. I love it. I love the caliber of folks that are coming on and joining and from all over the world, which I think is amazing. And so I'm very grateful and appreciative of the fact that, number one, I know you, but number two, that you're here. And I want to turn it over to you now so that you can take this transmission number 5 into embodied intelligence and vitality and share that with the folks that are listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Hello. It's so interesting that I was brought this question of embodied intelligence. And I have to be honest, when I heard about this and I was asked to speak on it, I thought, well, this is a little bit of an intimidating title, isn't it? Like, I felt like I should have brought my lab coat. But then I started thinking about it. Embodied intelligence. And it's not actually that difficult of a question. What is embodied intelligence? What do I think of it? And, I'm going to just talk a little bit about that, because it's basically what life has taught you that a textbook never could. And before I get into that, I just want to ask a quick question. Have you ever walked into a room and immediately you felt your shoulders tighten? Like nothing's happened. You haven't even spoken to anybody yet. Nothing really has happened, but just something. Your body kind of took something in. Your body knew something wasn't right. Has that ever happened to you? Okay, so leave that there for a minute. And now we're going to talk about embodied intelligence and what I perceive that to be. When I understand that word, embodied intelligence, right away what I think is wisdom. Wisdom that has moved from information, like it's not just information. I get these images in my head sometimes. I think kind of weird thoughts, and I'm thinking of maybe like an Einstein or something, and you got all these symbols and letters and numbers, and they're floating around your head and around you. There's just so much information, right? So wisdom is something that moves beyond information. All of those symbols and numbers and letters floating around your life, and it becomes a part of the person that you are. So for me, embodied intelligence, it encompasses wisdom, a part of who you are, how you choose to live your life, how you respond to other people, how you relate to other people, and believe it or not, how you make decisions. Because it's not just what we know intellectually, it's what experience, life experience has taught us, what we reflect on, and how that helps us understand. And so really, I think what it is, it's this repeated practice that is formed within us. This embodied intelligence. You know, a lot of the times people think intelligence as smarts. Maybe you need a PhD, like people will say, okay, so emotional intelligence. Let's just use emotional intelligence. If you have low emotional intelligence, it doesn't mean you're not smart. People think that intelligence is necessarily you're either stupid or you're not stupid. And I don't like using those words, but I've heard people use them. When it really has nothing to do with that, what you got, grade point average or whatever. Embodied intelligence has nothing to do with how many letters you have behind your name, how much money you have in your bank account. It's these lived experiences, how you live your life, and that circle you choose to put around yourself. Now, for me personally, as a Christian, I would have to add that because I believe embodied intelligence really is a form of wisdom, for as a Christian, that genuine wisdom, it must stay rooted. It must remain rooted and grounded in truth, God's truth. And a lot of the times now, we run on emotion. We run on how we're feeling. If we're angry, we're going to scream. And I'm going to tell you how angry I am, right? So I don't believe that embodied intelligence or wisdom, it's not to believe every feeling that comes across your mind or your body. Every impulse that comes, every internal sensation, it's not automatically truth or wisdom. Our feelings are wrong most of the time. We cannot rely on emotion to get us through situations, to get us through this thing called life, to get us through business, relationships. Because wisdom, you can deeply feel something, but an internal sensation, something that you deeply feel, it's important to take notice of it. It's important to say, this is what's happening to me, this is what I'm feeling. But I think something we miss often in this world today, and I do too sometimes, I get it wrong, but we're just so used to saying, well, I'm feeling this, so it must be true. And we see it all over social media. We see it all over on the political agenda. I'm not going to get into that, but we see it. I'm feeling this way, so it must be true. But more often than not, it's really not. It's just an emotion that we've allowed to take residency. And our experiences and our emotions are extremely important. and our bodies, they often reveal some great truths, some things that our minds have ignored. But the thing is, no matter how you're feeling, no matter how I'm feeling about something, it still needs an interpretation. And for me, that interpretation happens through scripture, through prayer, through meditation, through an honest reflection of myself and discernment. When I say honest reflection of myself, that embodied intelligence, I must make it personal. Is what I'm saying true to the ears listening? Not just what I want it to be, not just what I want them to hear, but is it true? Is it grounded in God's truth? And there was a question that was asked about what forms of intelligence can never be manufactured because they must be experienced or integrated or embodied. So what kind of intelligence can never be manufactured? With the world we're living in today, you never know what's true or not true. With AI, everything is manufactured. Everything. It's voice recognition. They can make things look like you, sound like you, and it's not even you. You can have relationships with other people. You can do all sorts of manufactured things. But there are things that cannot be manufactured. And I think it all revolves around human relationship. We're missing that human relationship, that moral formation. So for instance, a machine, when I say AI, I'm gonna call machines, okay? Because I even get stuck calling it he or she, right? And it's not a he or a she, it's an it. Right? But there are things that a machine can do. It can process information about grief. It can spit out what grief means and how we're supposed to do this or do that. But it cannot grieve someone it's loved. A machine can describe forgiveness, tell us what it means, but it can't experience betrayal and then make that costly decision to release resentment. It can have language that kind of imitates compassion, but it cannot sit with a person in pain and willingly carry some of that emotional weight. That is human relationship. That is only what embodied intelligence can do, wisdom can do, courage can do, humility and discernment, forgiveness and sacrificial love. There is no machine that can do that. They are quite simply, their qualities developed by actually living. By actually living. No machine can embody that. And it shapes our behaviors, right? It becomes something that we say we believe to something that shapes our behavior under pressure. And for me, Jesus is the clearest example of embodied wisdom. He did not merely teach about love and grace and humility and truth. He lived it. And we are supposed to be images of Christ, and so we are supposed to live it. His words and his life, they were aligned. And that is essential to embodied intelligence. Information can be manufactured, but character has to be formed. Character has to be formed. Our bodies teach us that knowledge too. We carry so much in our nervous system. And a lot of the times, we're not even ready for it. What our body is already carrying. It hasn't even caught up to our mind sometimes. Like, remember that question I asked you at the very beginning? Have you ever walked into a room and your body tensed and nothing happened? Nobody said anything, but your nervous system started reacting as though there was some sort of maybe danger present, or you just didn't feel right. Like, trauma can live in the body long after we're no longer in a situation. Something could have happened and there's these triggers or these things and it's still in our body, but the actual experience or situation has long passed, right? It lives in our body. Our body moves to what the mind, it tries to move past way too quickly. And I've experienced that. I've experienced the trauma, the anxiety, the illnesses due to the nervous system being overloaded. All of these things, recovery. It's not always easy. We have a lot of information on how we're supposed to get through these things. Our body speaks to us on how we should handle these things. But it's through the lived experience, it's through the wisdom, the language of wisdom that we get through these. Scripture talks about it as renewing the mind. I believe it's in Romans 12. Forgive me if it's not. It talks about renewing the mind. But I think in the world we live today, it's not enough just to renew the mind. I think that eventually it should become visible in the choices that we make, our habits, our relationships, our responses. The words that come out of our mouth should line up with the way our life is lived. And we don't always get it right. We're not all going to get it right all the time. It's just not possible. But the body can recognize things. The mind can recognize things. There is a limit. We need to embody that wisdom. We need to have discernment. And I think one of the most important questions is, how can we discern embodiment from wisdom, embodied wisdom from fear and impulse, because we work on impulse, and conditioned reactivity? I think that's one of the most important questions because, as I said, not every strong internal feeling is wisdom. We can be afraid and feel like, okay, this is wisdom because I'm fearful, so I'm just not going to do this. Or we can avoid things. Oh, there's the thing. We can avoid things and call it peace. Put our head in the sand, right? Pretend it doesn't exist and then say, oh, well, I've got peace. It doesn't work that way because your body's going to hold it. Your body's going to hold it. And I've learned a lot over the years working with youth and young adults and working with the aged. I work with many people who have, Alzheimer's and dementia, or different physical limitations, and their words fail them a lot. And so it's not just about words that we say, it's what have we lived. Sometimes they don't have the right words, but they'll remember things from long ago, and they'll speak these little nuggets of wisdom, like, that's not what you said, that's not what this person said, and you just listen to them and you're like, wow, no, that's embodied wisdom. That is experience that they could have only gotten through life experience, not through anything else. No book they've read, through life experience, traumas they've went through. It's overwhelming sometimes, but I'm always reminded that presence, remember I said it's that human connection, that human relationship bonding. These seniors who are grieving, depressed, lonely, families who's forgotten them, they express things differently, and they're the presence of somebody else. It's not a technique. It's compassion. It's compassion. And so you cannot learn that anywhere else but through embodied wisdom. And I believe that comes from Christ. I can't take that out of there because that's my truth. And I've been tested on this more times than I can count. I've been tested my faith. How do you know you have faith unless you've been tested? How do I know that I say, I believe this, and then all of a sudden a storm comes or a difficult moment comes? How do I react? How do I respond? How do I act? What do I say? Do I really have faith? That's embodied intelligence. And I believe it happens when truth moves from the mind into actual life, actual testing, actual experiences. And faith is central to my transformation. Becoming more aware of myself, allowing God to renew my mind, shape my responses, allowing God to help me form to be more Christ-like. The most important question is not simply, what do I know? But what has what I know helped me become? Who has what I know helped me become? Embodied intelligence, it's human interaction, human relationship, wisdom. Thank you.
I love that. Love that, Kim. Love that. Thank you so much for the transmission. You left me with no questions to ask. uh, no, because the question that I've been asking everyone is where is this truly being tested within you and verified in your own life? But as you eloquently stated, we're tested every day,
Every day.
right? And in particularly if you're a person of faith, right? I mean, there's a test, and how do you determine if your faith is well founded unless you're going through some kind of test? But the I guess the idea is that you're tested and you embody what you say you believe in. um and that could happen twice today, that can happen 10 times tomorrow, it could happen once the day after that, and maybe nothing on Friday, and that's fine.
It happens all
um
the time.
but it happens all the time, and so I think so it's like the walking testament of what embodiment looks like,
Yeah.
because every day is not going to be perfect, right? um but and the body will speak to us even if we want to ignore it in the mind. um
Yeah.
it reminds me of the book, The Body Keeps the Score. Of course it keeps the score, right? Because what we fail to see or what we fail to address will come out some other way. And so yeah, it's a powerful reminder. um but it's more than just a reminder. Again, in an age where things can be manufactured and information is plentiful and knowledge is there. I mean, knowledge is no longer power. How we wield that power, obviously becomes a
Mm.
different consideration. But what we do with that information is just as important. And there's been certainly lots of research out there on all this stuff. But at the end of the day, what are we willing to do? What choices are we willing to make? What are we willing to embody? What are we willing to embody when it gets tough? It's not just when things are easy, when it gets really tough. And life is on us. And life could be on us, if everything becomes easy. It could be on us at that point, because what else do we have, right? What we embody. And so I appreciate your voice. Thank you for joining me today in this journey, being the voice of vitality. I couldn't have asked for a better person to represent that in this conversation. So thank you.
Thank you,
And we're
John.
going to transition to the next person, the next voice that we're going to hear is going to be the voice of values. And this is our transmission number 7 coming up, in this meaning and moral imagination. And so our next voice you will hear from is a spiritual mentor, an Akashic record reader, and the host of the globally ranked Spiritual Journey Path to Awakening podcast. For nearly 30 years in the corporate world, he followed a deeper calling into spiritual work, helping people reconnect with who they are at a soul level, trust their inner guidance, and navigate life with greater clarity and consciousness. And so I want to bring to the stage now my brother, Nimish Radia, who is coming from the UK. So now that I know where everybody's from, and to say it first, Nimish is joining us from the UK, and we'll bring up Nimish Radia now. And while we're waiting for Nimish to join us, I have a question for those that are listening. What are you learning so far in these transmissions? Like, what's standing out for you? Maybe one truth or one nugget of wisdom. Nimitz has joined us now, and so I'm going to let you think about that. But my brother, thank you and welcome to the stage and to this journey. You've been on the journey, the spiritual journey, for a long time, just like some of us who are listening. So you're no stranger to this. But on the same token, I think that every transmission that we have, and we're gaining something and learning something new and learning things from different perspectives. And you obviously, when I thought of you for this particular transmission, it's because I know you bring a different perspective to the conversation. And I think that's very necessary because as we think about what we experience in this physical form and this life that we call life and human life. I mean,
Yeah.
there's obviously another dimension to this. And so I think that it's very worthwhile to hear about that and to share that perspective. And so I'm going to leave the stage to you.
Beautiful.
You're coming to us from the UK,
Yeah.
London.
From London. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome.
Excited to be
So
here.
I love it, brother. And I'm excited to have you. And I will give you the stage.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm looking forward to kind of working through this, really. So, quick intro for me. I'm an Akashic record reader, a Akashic trader, podcast host, as well as a podcast creator, and a spiritual coach and mentor. And what I get to do is I guide people on their journey. I hold your space, really helping you to understand who you are. And after spending many years in the corporate space, through my own awakening, and I found the spiritual path. And I'm going to dive in today about in AI in the spiritual world and kind of how do we maintain our voice and not get lost in the world of AI. I feel like AI is a powerful tool. It's going to shift the planet. And I'm sure you guys have been talking about it for the last few hours, but the danger here is, it's a beautiful source of truth. And when I consider AI in the spiritual world, for me, it's a companion. But the danger is, and what I've seen with some people is, they're starting to use it as a replacement for their natural channel. And for me, your physical body, your connection to your guides, your intuition, it's always going to be there. And AI can assist, can support, but it can never become the complete source of truth. Because your intuition, your connection to your guides, it's something that's been there for centuries, for lifetimes. And our physical body, our connection to energies and vibrations around us is so natural. It's been there for lifetimes. And like I said, AI can be an addition to your channel. It can support you on your journey, but it can't replace. And that for me is the danger. I see, like I said, I'm an Akashic record reader. I see people going to ChatGPT and AI and asking to read their Akashic records. And, what comes through, you could say is true. But it's like we have access to deep levels of information, deep ancestors that I feel surpasses AI. So right now, we're going through a massive shift, a shift like the planet's never been through. And I feel like we have a deeper connection to our guides, our ancestors, so many planets supporting us. And AI can assist, but it can't replace that connection, in my opinion. For example, if you have a question, if you want to ask your guides a question, for me, the first thing is always to check in with you, your energy, your vibration. And then if you get an answer and you want to go deeper on it and you want to get AI to support, that's a beautiful thing. The other thing that, another way of using AI is I channel prompts for ChatGPT through the Akashic records, which then can be used with AI. So for me, it can assist, but it cannot replace. And, I was asked to talk about how do we discern, between the messages from AI and the human. And I feel like AI is going to be whatever you want it to be. So if you're worried about AI and you feel like it's going to replace you, then you manifest your reality. Whatever you focus on expands. So I would, if you feel like it's going to replace you, then it may do that. But it's growing, and for me, it's part of this evolution the planet's going through, shifting from divine masculine to divine feminine. I feel like AI is going to give us the ability to go even deeper into our intuition. So it's like a partner to walk along with us, not to replace us. And the danger from AI, as people start to use it spiritually, it's a form of disconnection. It's a form of escape. You give responsibility to get your answers to AI, and there's a danger you become disconnected from who you really are. You can't give your power away. So that's what I would recommend on this journey is to trust your own intuition and use AI to be your partner. Our values, our intuition, our consciousness, it comes from inside us. It comes from a deeper place than AI. It comes from our own human journey, but even deeper than that, it comes from our soul. We're a soul having a human experience. And the human experience is about experiencing anger, emotion, connection to our guides. And that should be natural. Now, if something like AI comes along that can assist, 100%, let's leverage it. Why would we not? I mean, the way I use AI as an example, I record all my podcasts naturally channeled, nothing scripted, nothing's edited. But then, sure, I use AI to create a summary for me. Why not, right? It's still my words. I edit it and I make sure so it can support. And 100% is like if I'm downloading a message from the Akashic Records, 100% I can take that and ask, AI to interpret what it means. But it doesn't replace my voice. So overall, that'd be my message: is AI is your supporter. It walks alongside you, but it doesn't replace you. And like I said, I have clients who actually started going down that path, kind of almost being addicted to AI, kind of asking this question, asking that question. And for a while, they stopped connecting and channeling. And this is where I kind of had to step in and say, well, hold on a second. Your truth is inside you. Yes, you can use AI as an addition, but don't let it replace you. Because then you are giving your power away. As humans, we've given our power when we're born. It's like we're trained to put everybody else first, and we go on this journey to realize actually we're important and we need to put ourselves first. But now there's a new danger, right? Instead of giving your power away to your family, to your blood family, to your friends, now there's a danger you give your power away to AI. And that's a form of detachment. That's a form of passing responsibility. But your soul chose why it needed to be here, what you needed to experience, what you needed to learn. And like I said, AI can support you in that, but it can't replace you. It's like my own journey. I spent many years in the corporate world. And I switched after nearly 30, and I don't think AI would ever have given me the answer. I had to go through my own dark night of the soul. And again, AI can assist, it can, but you're the one, there's a human that needs to choose to pause, to listen and trust come from within. Yes, AI is going to shift, but I don't feel it. I don't feel like we need AI to complete this human experience. Can it support? Can it help us become more conscious, more connected, more present, discerning? 100%. But it can never replace that connection to the channel. And like I said, I know I'm coming up to my 8 minutes. I don't put my own timer on, so Paul, I don't overrun. But, that's my end, really. It's like AI can be part of your channel. It can almost be like an additional guide, but it can never replace your channel. And I guess if you listen to this, how much of the human are you giving away to the AI? What part of being human are you unwilling to outsource? And Paul, I'm going to hand it back to you and answer any questions you may have. I hope that made
Yeah.
sense, and I'm
Yeah.
curious to know.
100%. I think that last question, I'd love for everybody just to kind of reflect on that. How much are we willing to outsource to AI? But then, you know, that's a that's the human question that to be asked right now. I ask it all the time because we can decide one way or another. We have the choice, right? And I think
Yeah,
that it's also beautiful to you reflect on. I look at AI as being, I won't say the catalyst, but like it's the mirror, right? Because if it's been created, we're starting to see what things are capable. We're at a stage where not very many people have adopted it, but yet these platforms are starting to open up and expand very rapidly. As far as its uses, I think I just read somewhere at the beginning of this week that in China, they decided to take their platform, and whatever the premium version of the platform looks like, they're offering it to everybody for free. So
Yeah.
you're gonna so the whole conversation around information is unlimited and knowledge is available at our fingertips. That's here right now. There's no stopping that train. Um, but what type of human do you want to be in the mix of all this? No, it won't. It won't replace you because it can't replace who you are. Right? You can clone it, you
Yeah,
can get the
but
video, but who you
it's
are
like you could
inside.
yeah, exactly. This is who you are, but
Hmm.
I do feel like some people are outsourcing that part.
Yeah,
But it's a
yeah,
form of escape, right? It's a form of
mhm,
not wanting to deal with what's happening inside.
yeah,
When I was in corporate, I worked for an open source company, right? So that's what we did. We gave
mm,
our software away, so it's like, and that's what China's doing. But again, it doesn't give you an excuse to just give everything, your whole energy, your vibration away, and give responsibility. You came onto this planet for a reason. You needed,
yeah,
you wanted, and that comes from inside. It doesn't come from an AI.
right, exactly. And so no, I appreciate that transmission, and I appreciate that from that perspective. Um, I'll say a more spiritual, but more of it's not just energetic. It's just we spend our lives in anxiety and fear about what has happened or what we believe is going to happen in the future. And we forget to live in the now because we're so focused on the past and the future. And the future is only created by what we do right now, and who we choose to become right now. And if we can stay focused on that and not worry about that, and it's hard to do. We're
Yeah,
human beings, and so we have that. All the things we've been
Yeah.
talking about. We have the things grabbing our attention. We have the stuff that's going on in the world. We have the things that we worry about. We have the life we're trying to live. We have all those things. But yet, those things at the grand scale maybe aren't as significant as we think they are, right? Or as we believe they are. And
yeah,
so it is a matter of slowing down and really thinking about what is truly important to us.
yeah. I mean, we have free
And
will, right? That's the point. We
yeah,
have free will. We have a choice. But it's
hmm
like, if we're honest, and you look at the last few years with lockdown and everything else, even AI, how much control of the future do we really have?
hmm
And the past is a great lesson. It teaches us. But what do we have control over? We have control over this moment.
right,
And the magic and the beauty and the choice and who we choose to be happens in this moment. If we get lost in what we're going to be in the future, and we get lost in our expectations. And if you look at the current energy and you just feel, there's so much shifting,
hmm
but the magic is in the moment. The magic is feeling this moment. The magic is being present. We chose
yes,
to be here, right, as souls, and
yep,
that's where the magic is.
yeah, 100%. And so, yeah, so now for most people, they have to digest the fact I chose to be here. But I think that's the one thing. Let's start with that. Let's digest that, right? We chose to be here, at
We
least
did. I mean,
energetically.
as souls,
Mm,
right? I mean, the
right.
reality is our soul chose some really challenging lessons, and I'm sure there's a lot of people listening that have been through a lot.
Mm,
But ultimately, whatever we've been through has served us in some kind of way.
yeah, 100%.
It's made us who we
I
are
was
today,
sharing.
right? It's made us
Yeah,
who we
so
are
we are
today.
exactly. That's what I was sharing earlier with who was I sharing it with? I think I was sharing that with Kimberly, or maybe no, it was Christina. And I was saying, it's all the choices, all the things that we've experienced, whether we've categorized them as good or bad, really don't matter. That's neither here nor there.
Yeah,
All those things we've experienced have led to this moment right now. And you wouldn't be who you are if it wasn't for all those things, whether they've
yeah,
been good or bad. And then you're going to become even more if you just have the experience, right?
yeah. I mean, who decides
And
what's good or bad, right?
yeah, exactly. Exactly. My brother, I really appreciate you being part of this journey, and walking next to me in this experience, and agreeing to be a voice and talking about this transmission on values. Um, and I look forward to continuing down this path, supporting you in any way that I can as well. And again, I just want to thank you and say, yeah, much of you appreciated before we move on to the next transmission. But thank you, thank
Thank,
you.
thank you too. Thank you for your light, your energy, your vibration. Known you maybe for a year or so, and I love how you're open to the shift and
Yeah,
pivoting to where your heart takes you. And thank you for this opportunity for me to shine my light, to use my voice. I appreciate you. Thank you.
absolutely, my brother, absolutely, my brother. And we're going to shift into this last movement, which is really about evolve, right? Like I said, there was three movements. So there was discover, there was awaken, and now we're moving into this last movement, evolve, which is really about responsibility. Um, who or what we must now become. And we're going to have transmission number 8 on conscious leadership in the evolved space. And the voice I'm bringing up um, has been a coach. He's been a mentor. He's been an amazing friend. He is the CEO of the Entrepreneurs Bookshelf. He is the founder of the Connected Leaders Academy. I want to say he is now in, if I want to get it right, I'm going to say, oh, he's got to get me on the number of countries. I saw him post this the other day, and I can't remember the number of countries, but I know it's something magnificent. 43 countries, I want to say what it is, if I'm remembering it correctly. But he will correct me on that. Um, but he has embodied leadership. He's in a very conscious way. He has connected people. He has built businesses. He has worked in faith. He has been a man of integrity. As I said, someone that I have certainly known and certainly grown to love over the years, as well as just honor the fact of his presence. He connected me to the individual who's producing this show, this event. So I couldn't be not only more appreciative and honored that he's here, but that he has chosen to say yes to being the next voice talking about the lens of virtue. And that person is Jose Escobar, my brother. Thank you for being here.
Well, can you hear me okay, I assume? Yes,
I can
wonderful.
hear you just fine.
So, Paul, thank you for having me. Absolutely excited to be here. There is no question about it. You and me go quite some ways back, a couple of years since I first met you. Shout out to Dave Derman, who was the original connector of us. And then before you know it, as we were connected, you joined the Connected Leaders Academy, and we built a deeper bond and a friendship and a brotherhood that is really solid, really, really solid. So when you came to me and said, "Hey, I have this platform. I want you to come speak, even for 7 minutes," the answer was unequivocally yes. You better believe it. I'll be there. So thank you for the platform and for the opportunity. So I guess I'll dive in. And
Yeah, before you do that, where are you joining us from? And then I will let you have the entire space.
Jose Escobar, CEO and founder of the Connected Leaders Academy, and I am here in Maryland, and to be exact, Montgomery County, Silver Spring, Maryland.
Awesome. Thank you, my brother. This floor is yours.
Alrighty. So a bit about virtues of conscious leadership, because I believe that's my subject matter for today. I am all about virtue. I love virtue. Virtue to me goes back to my faith and a lot of things that I believe in, but also conscious leadership, being fully aware of where you are as a leader, what you do as a leader, how you show up as a leader, I think is very, very important. I think a lot of times we can get lost in the day to day. We can get lost in just showing up and doing what we feel is appropriate, and you may or may not be right. So I think foundationally, it's important to understand what is leadership? How do we show up? What are the examples that we have to set? What does it look like? What does it smell like? What does it sound like? All the things. So the first piece I want to talk about today in my limited time is self-awareness. Okay, so we have to have the ability to lead ourselves first. Self-awareness is huge. These are things that I am very cognizant about, in this case, conscious, and that I'm always doing my very best to be aware. Because if we're not careful, we won't even notice that we're leading in the wrong way. We won't even notice that we're repelling the people around us. We won't notice that people are building resentment towards us and not happy, etc. So self-awareness is very, very important. So lead yourself first. Okay, who are you now? Do you know your blind spots? Do you know your triggers? Do you know your patterns? Do you know your strengths? Do you know the things you need to know about yourself? And the only way to know that is to, of course, have some time to self-reflect every day at the end of your day. What did I do well? What did I do not so well? Are you journaling? Do you have a coach and a mentor that can give you some feedback? Are you open to constructive criticism from individuals around you? Right? So you cannot lead properly until you lead yourself. Very, very important. That is the first thing. The second thing I want to share here is intentionality. Stop leading on autopilot. Okay, conscious leaders don't simply react to their day, they choose how they show up. I don't go where the wind blows when I wake up in the morning. I choose what I'm going to do, how I'm going to do it. I have a strategy, I have a system, I have processes of how I show up. I have a planner. I have a daily planner, and I structure my day in a certain way. We have to be intentional with our energy, with our relationships, with our decisions, right? Is this decision I'm about to make moving me more closer towards where I'm trying to go? Right? So just be very mindful of that piece. That's very, very important. The next thing is integrity. Okay, so self-awareness, intentionality, now integrity. Be the same leader when nobody is watching. Okay, who are you when nobody is watching? How are you showing up? Your character is who you are when there is no audience. I'll say that one more time. Your character is who you are when there is no audience. Keep your promises, especially the small ones. Is it difficult sometimes as a leader? Absolutely, it is difficult. It's not easy, right? But again, a great mentor of mine said, Jose, we're not here to take up the easy. Make decisions based on principles, not convenience. Integrity does matter. It is huge. Okay, your greatest leadership asset, folks, is not your network. It is your name, right? Protect your name, protect your integrity, protect your character. How are you showing up? Number 4 is empathy, right? See the human before you see the transaction. Don't just look for money and revenue. Look for service. How can I serve this person? Can I understand where they currently are, right? Entrepreneurs can become so focused on the KPIs, the revenues, the numbers, the metrics, all those things, right? But at the end of the day, business is ultimately about serving people. How do they feel around you? Can you relate to them? Are you going out of your way to serve people? Make people know that you value them. Super, super important. And last but not least, I want to talk about responsibility, right? Responsibility is huge. And I just kind of talked about it backstage with Dr. Smiley. Jocko Willink wrote a great book called Extreme Ownership, which is actually back there on my bookshelf as we speak. I can see it. It's a great book. Read the book. It is so important, right? What part of this belongs to me? Not whose fault is this? No, what part of this situation that I'm currently in as a leader belongs to me? When you go and approach somebody in a difficult conversation, instead of saying, hey, you did this, you did that, or why did you do this? Approach somebody with, look, you know what, Paul, I'm seeking to understand. The other day this happened and it made me feel this kind of certain way, and I'm just seeking to understand. Can you enlighten me a bit? Can you share a little bit more insight in terms of that? So again, not whose fault is this, what part of this belongs to me? Super, super important when it comes to responsibility. Take extreme ownership. Own your decisions, own your mistakes, right? Own the culture of the community that you've built or the clients that you serve, right? That is so, so important. So the price of greatness is responsibility. Winston Churchill said that. And I actually have that on my wall, right? Super, super important. The price of greatness is responsibility. So take responsibility for your actions, for yourself, and for how you show up in your day-to-day. All right, let's see my perfect timing. So in conclusion, we have self-awareness, we have intentionality, we have integrity, empathy, and responsibility. These are things that I live as often as possible. These are things that I do my very best to show up in a certain way, because I understand that the people that I serve deserve the best of me. They deserve me showing up in a certain way that is congruent with what I claim to be. Because I can be claiming from the pulpit, hey, this is who I am, this is what I'm about. And behind the scenes, or the people that deal with me on a day to day are like, that's not Jose. What he's saying versus what he does are two different things. So, virtue, conscious leadership, very, very important. Make sure that you are self aware, making every effort to be cognizant of these 5 things I talked about today. And those are just 5 things. It's actually like 25 things. Okay. But for the sake of time, those are things that matter to me, that if you implement and take inventory of that, can actually shift how you show up for the people that you serve.
Thank you. Thank you, my brother, for that transmission. So many golden nuggets. I mean, I think everyone has shared some golden nuggets, but I mean, I think there is some lots of lessons to be learned here and just to understand. And I know, but just by knowing you, this is how you live, right? It's not, this is how I think you should do this and how we should do things. And this is what I teach, but this is how you live. But I think that's what the most important piece, the most important piece and thread that runs throughout every transmission that has been shared is like, this is not what we teach and what we do. This is how we live, how we show up. I love, the statement around be the same leader you are when no one else is watching, right? There is no audience that's necessary. If you are that leadership that leads with integrity, be the person of integrity at the grocery store, be the person of integrity at the gas station, be the person of integrity when you're on stage in front of all the people and everybody sees you in public. Be the person of integrity when you're at home with your kids and your wife or your partner. Those are the things that matter the most, because at the end of the day, all you have left is your word, your integrity, and who you say you are. And if you're not living to your values, that becomes incongruent. Everyone knows it. And
And
everyone
Paul,
sees it.
if we fall, and if we fall as leaders, which can happen, and we
Mhm.
fall short, I said I was going to do this and didn't do it, or maybe I slipped up in something, right? Because it's going to happen. There is no perfect leader. We have to
Mhm.
have the ability to take that self inventory and to accept the piece of ownership that belongs to us in the
Yeah.
process. And we have to be ready, willing, and able to apologize, to forgive, to seek forgiveness, and to be better. And we have to keep coming back stronger as leaders at all times.
Mhm. I'd love to ask you a question just to reflect upon, right? So, um, you talked about virtues, and I think that, I think that even Dan talked about it too. Like we get into certain places, certain stations in life, right? And everything on the outside looks like it's all great. We're successful. We've reached the top or reached whatever top goal we've decided, that we wanted to reach, and we've gotten there. But yet, there are times when those values, those virtues become, maybe something happens and we don't always live to the truth, or we get tested. If you thought about this value of virtue, where is it testing you at this moment in your life,
I would
or it
say
doesn't
it's,
test you?
yeah, it always tests me, because at the end of the
Mhm.
day, I have to be always real with who I am and how I show up. And that's
Mhm.
not easy. Like, I'm the same guy with my children that I am with my wife, that I am with my clients, that I am with my friends, that I am with at an event, on stage, off stage. I'm the same dude at all times, right? I don't shift. I don't become this like chameleon that just changes how I speak and what I say and how I behave. I'm the same guy across the board. Like, and I think that's important. And there's times where I'm like, oh, wait a minute, what I just said or what I just did is not in alignment with how I would do that in front of my kids or my wife or whatever the case. And I have to check myself sometimes, right? So we all need guardrails, and I have guardrails for myself. I know exactly once I hit a guardrail, I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, I don't want to go over there, right? But the
Mhm.
problem is, too many of us don't have guardrails, and if we don't have guardrails, then anything is possible. And by the time you look up, you made a mistake, and some
Right.
mistakes it's hard to come back from, right? Whether
Mhm.
it's you ended up in jail or in a hospital, or end up in a situation that you can't come back from. That is, and there's a lot of examples I could give. And I've seen leaders
Mhm.
fall in those traps because, again, there is this, I'm going to be this way over here and be this way over here. Or I'm just not, I don't have the guardrails in place to make sure I'm in alignment with all those things. So I think it's a constant test. It's a daily test, Paul. I haven't
Mhm.
arrived. I don't think anybody
Yeah.
has arrived. And if they tell you that, they're lying. It's simply every day I have to check myself to make sure that I'm in alignment with good character, good integrity, and all the virtues that everybody looks for in a leader.
Yeah. And I think that's the other important thing, other important piece to kind of note, which has been a thread through all the transmissions, is that it's a daily practice, regardless of what it is, whether it's virtues, whether it's your values, whether it's your volition, whether it's your veracity, whatever it is, we are challenged and tested on those things daily. It's just that we have processes and guardrails, as you stated, in place to help us navigate that. No, we're not doing it perfectly, and I agree with you. I think that there are a lot of people who think they've arrived, right? Because they've got to a certain point, they think they had been enlightened. And it's like, just because you became aware does not mean you've been enlightened. Thank you, congratulations, you're aware now.
Yeah.
But what are you doing to hold that awareness in your consciousness, identifying those gaps as we've all been talking about, and then being able to check ourselves and move at least in the right direction. And it is a adjustment that we have to consciously make day in and day out. Um, if you were to pick one virtue that becomes a non-negotiable, what would you say that virtue is?
Love. I would say love is
Mm,
important to me. I think so. I always try to see the good in people and in circumstances and in things. Right. It's easy to look for the negative, and you're going to find what
mm,
you're looking for. As they say, where your focus goes, your energy flows. Right. So for me,
mhm,
I choose to see positive. I choose to think positive. I choose to see the good in people and all the things that come around me. And every now and then you'll run into some arrogant person, or you'll run into somebody who thinks they've arrived in life and look how great I am, do you know who I am, kind of an attitude. And you'll run into some people that might be disgruntled. It doesn't matter what you do or how well you do it, they're just going to find ways to poke holes in what you're doing. And you're going to find the haters, and you're going to find the people that turn their backs on you, and you're going to find all the things and the people that are looking to just stab you in the back at the first opportunity they have. And I can go example after example after example, but the key for me
mm,
is I always hold in high regard love. And to me, love is respect, it is dignity of others, it is forgiveness, it is humility, it is kindness, it is selflessness. The things that we care to show our people. So for me, I love my wife, I love my kids, I love my friends, I love my clients, I love my parents, I love my neighbors, and I love the strangers. And obviously, there's
mm.
different levels of that love. But as long as foundationally you love people, it's really hard to hate on people. It's really hard to talk trash and throw people under the bus, right? And
Mm,
again, if
mhm.
we ever fall short, which we will in different situations, we have to be self-aware. We have to take ownership. We have to get back up and come back stronger.
Indeed, indeed. Wise words, my brother, wise words. Thank you, Jose, for being part of this journey, and speaking on this particular transmission, this theme around virtue. Um, I can't thank you enough for your leadership and the opportunities you create. Not opportunities you just created for me, but opportunities you create for everybody that you touch, right? And that's truly servant leadership, conscious leadership, and leadership by love, but through love. So I thank you, my brother. And we are going to transition to the ninth voice, which will be on the verified future. And the voice, and I'm going to talk about this last transmission, or the last speaker, before we move into transmission number 10. But this next voice is someone that has been on the stage with me, and connected through Jose Escobar, who just spoke. He's in the Connected Leaders Academy as well. This person's an author. He's a leadership teacher. He's a music education specialist, motivational speaker, and a conductor. Um, he's the founder of Upbeat Global and author of the best-selling book Upbeat Mindset: Mindfulness and Leadership in Music Education and Beyond. He's the chair of the music education department and associate director of bands at the Lawrence University Conservatory of Music in Appleton, Wisconsin. In addition, he is on the faculty of the American Band College of Central Washington University and Vandercook College of Music. He also serves as a leadership editor for GIA Productions, a Con Selmer education clinician and director of community engagement for SLAM, which stands for Servant Leadership Association for Music. Right, that's the background. But what I can say is that as a person, this person um, resonated so deeply with me. Is on a mission to make impact. He's on a mission to bring humanity back into our experience. And I felt like he was very appropriate to talk about this next V lens of voice. And I want to bring up Dr. Matthew around. And as we wait for Dr. Rao to come onto the stage, I want to ask and the folks that are watching and listening, what connections are you making now? We've gone through Discover and we've talked about several of the different V's and the V lenses. And now we've gone through Awakening and we discussed a few more. And then we left with we're left with now voice, which is part of the evolve phase and putting this all together. And Dr. Rao has now joined us. How you doing, Doc?
Hey, doing great. Good to see you, my friend.
All right, my brother. It's good to see you too. I was counting in my head our a couple conversation that we had, and just the connections and the alignment and just the vibing on the same level. Just thinking about the experience and impact in the world. And so I've always been grateful for that conversation, very appreciative of it and connecting with a like mind and soul. And this was an opportunity, so you meet people and you never know. You're like, we're gonna do something. I don't know what it's gonna be, but we're gonna do something together. And
Absolutely.
then I invited you on this journey and with short notice. And but that's
Love
but
it.
that's the beauty of all this thing, because I think that when things are aligned, they just come together. And so I certainly want to thank you for being on this journey, for saying yes to being one of the voices in this transmission. This is a 10 transmission experience, and you're voice number 9. And again, you're the voice, right? Because I know you have the knowledge and the wisdom and the background to see it and pull it all together with all your experiences. And I can't wait to hear what you're going to share. So with that, where are you located now?
Well, I'm transmitting from Ithaca, New York, but I
Ooh.
normally am in Neenah, Wisconsin, just traveling today.
That's right. That's right. So on the East Coast, but typically coming from Wisconsin. And so with that, Dr. Rao, I will give you the stage and I will be back in a few minutes so we can actually talk and have some more exchange.
All right. Look forward to it, Paul. Thanks so
All
much.
right now.
Well, folks, it's great to connect with you. Paul asked me to share some thoughts on this particular question, which is what must we change in how we raise, educate, lead, create, and live if humanity is to evolve alongside the intelligence it has created? And as always, Paul is such a thoughtful individual and asks such a rich question. There's so much in this question about how must we change how we raise our children and educate them, and how should we lead and create and live if humanity is to evolve alongside the intelligence it has created. And the focus is on voice. And as a music teacher myself, I've been teaching music for 30 years. I began performing as a musician when I was 4 years old, starting to write my own music, and I remember wanting to express my voice. And I think we all have a voice. And sometimes our voices, it feels like they're suppressed, but we're meant to shine our voices brightly. And I want to kind of share the pathway of discovering our voice, but also learning from other voices. And I thought it'd be neat to talk about what it was like for me to grow up as a jazz musician, because as a jazz musician, I play the saxophone. I fell in love with music through listening to music. So I fell in love through listening to other voices. And then I started practicing. And the first thing I did as a musician, I started imitating other voices. And you think about the parallel to learning language. We learn languages through listening to others growing up when we're really young, and then we start to imitate those sounds, and then we start to study and listen and read and learn different types of voices, whether it's through literature or music or art or science or math. But it's not supposed to stop there with just imitating other voices. The goal is for us to evolve to discover our own inner voice and then to express that, to express our voice to the world. And I believe that each one of us has a special purpose. Our purpose is to express the light we all have within. I have the opportunity now, after 30 years of teaching music, and I taught leadership and mindset and mindfulness in 42 states and 4 continents. And one of the concepts I teach others is that we can go through life holding back, conforming, being like maybe we're told we need to be, and where we lose our original voice, but we're meant to shine brightly. Oftentimes, we can go through life feeling like everything in life is a have to do, right? It's that weight on our shoulders, and we feel like maybe what we do doesn't really matter, but it does. We're meant to live life not with the feeling of have tos, but to really embrace life and to realize that no, we get to live this life. I call that living in the spirit of get. When you live in the spirit of get, you live in the present moment, the now, which is the only moment that's ever guaranteed. And you think about that word get, what it feels like when you recognize, we get to be together. Paul brought all of us together. We get to enjoy this moment together, to share with one another. G stands for gratitude, to live in gratitude. E is enthusiasm. It's a choice to live life all in and full out, to express your voice. And T is treasure, to treasure the people in our lives and to treasure the other voices that we get to listen to. But we often feel like life is the search for a treasure, a hidden treasure, like maybe a chest of gold. So often we think the treasure's outside of ourselves and we're looking for it. We got to find that treasure. And once we find that treasure, everything's going to be okay. But we forget the most important treasure is not out there. It actually lies within us. The most important treasure is the treasure that lies within you. You are a treasure, and you have a brilliant golden light within you that's meant to shine brightly. And that's your voice. But so often in life, there's voices out there that want to suppress yours. I say, don't let them. Share your voice. The world needs to hear your voice. Now, the powerful thing is I get to teach what I call upbeat leadership to adults all over the world. But one thing I enjoy doing so much is I get to work with high school students teaching upbeat leadership. And I share with them that there are 6 things that we all value and need as a human being. And I'm going to share those 6 things because I believe that if we can live in a world where these 6 things are valued, where people are respected for their voices, then we will continue to evolve as humanity. Because what we have as humanity is so special and it can't be replicated through AI. I believe, and if you believe this too, just feel it in your heart, but I believe that there are 6 human essentials. I believe that every human being wants to feel they are valued, I believe every human being wants to feel they matter. I believe every human being wants to feel they make a difference. I believe every person wants to feel loved. And I believe every person wants to feel connected. And I believe every person wants to belong. And if we can evolve to create a world where all those six things are cherished and supported, then we will find a way to live alongside the intelligence that's created through AI and live alongside in partnership. As we shine our voices, it's so important also to remember the importance of listening to all the other voices out there. But I think it begins with listening within to discover your inner voice. Thank you. Paul, it's great to see you, my friend.
Yeah, my brother, that was amazing, and it's so funny because your left the last point you left. I imagine the answer to this question because I was thinking like, what must everyone begin doing now to prepare for the next generation for the future? And I think you hit it on the head. Gotta listen.
Yeah.
We gotta listen. All right. We gotta listen to each other. We gotta listen to ourselves. We gotta listen to our intuition. We gotta listen to our truth. We gotta listen to our soul. Right. And I think that again, we get so distracted by everything else, we either forget or maybe in some respects don't know how to do that anymore. And like we have to be learning.
Yeah. I I find that it begins in silence.
Mm,
And you know what's so beautiful? I'm a conductor, as you know, so I get to
mhm,
conduct music. And as a conductor, I don't make any sound with my baton, right? When I raise my hands up with the upbeat and
yeah,
then the music's created on the downbeat, but that's in the inhale, the inspiration. We hear the music we want to create, but music always comes out of a canvas of silence.
yeah, mhm,
And just like art is painted on a blank canvas, music's created on a canvas of silence, and it actually goes in and out of that silence, but it always returns to silence. And I think sometimes as human beings, we forget to return to silence because we live in
mm,
such a loud, constant whir. The world is just constant buzz that you actually have to be intentional
mhm,
to be in silence and then to listen inward to be with yourself.
yeah, yeah. And what's beautiful about that is it's we all arrive at that. It's that awareness, knowing that's what needs to happen, right? And when you hear people talk about getting silent. I talk about getting silent. Meditation. Okay, you don't even have to meditate on it. Just get silent with yourself, right? Can you get in silence for 5 seconds, 10 seconds, a minute? What happens when you practice that for a minute? And people, I can't meditate, I can't do this, I can't sit in silence. You get into a deep conversation, and sometimes you just have to sit and kind of soak it in for a second before you
Yeah,
even respond. And we're so quick to try to react and just say stuff without even just let what was just stated sit for a second. Like, and what does that really mean? And I think that, you know, it, music is a great example. Conducting is a great example. I used to play in the band. I played in the band all through my high school, middle school, high school, actually elementary school, middle school, parts of high school. And then when I was at the academy, the Merchant Marine Academy, I played in the band. And I
cool.
always was fascinated by the conductors because you're right. I mean, outside of that initial tap to get our attention, that's the last time you heard that baton.
That's right.
But just by the expression of the movement and
Hmm.
the emotions that were created just by how they moved, you knew exactly when to bring things up, when to speed up the tempo, when to slow things down, when to get quiet, all those things. And all that, like you said, came out of nothing because before the band plays one single note, there was complete silence.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then beauty is created.
Yes. Yeah. And I love this idea, Paul, where you challenged me to think about evolution, evolve, and voice. And I
Mm,
think in terms of just thinking of AI and its capabilities, um, and how knowledge is so accessible. But what can humans do that nobody else? There's many things we can do that nothing else can do, but one of those is creativity, right? And to be truly creative. And I think as a musician, to me, that in terms of education, creativity becomes even more important for our youth. To challenge them to think creatively in the arts and dance and theater and music, to critically think, to be curious. I think curiosity is so
Hmm.
important. And the questions, right? If you think about even interacting with AI now, whether it's ChatGPT or whatever it is, we ask the questions. We can
Hmm.
challenge AI, and we need to continue to do that. We need to teach our students to challenge, to question, but to listen. And as we know, oftentimes people are only listening to the voices that they feel comfortable with. We
Hmm.
need to engage in education with challenging voices so that we can maybe think differently, but be open and challenge us to listen amidst disagreement. Right.
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
We need to, it's all a practice, isn't it? Just like meditation is a practice. The more you challenge yourself by listening to people with different points of view, and sitting with it and being open instead of responding or reacting, but
Hmm.
just being
Hmm.
present for somebody is such an important tool. And one of the things I get to do is I get to go into schools and share with students like how to ground themselves and release stress, because there's so much stress in the schools, kind of clouds their,
Hmm.
everything physically, mentally, emotionally. And so I'll teach them some mindful practices, and they're so grateful. Well, I'll teach them like the box breath or something. And I say, has anybody ever shared this with you? And they're like, no,
Oh,
but they're
yeah,
so
no.
stressed out of their mind, but it helps them be
Yeah,
fully present. And I
yeah.
think that we can do that in schools, helping students be comfortable with looking inward and being silent and listening to each other mindfully. Uh,
Hmm.
I actually do this activity with students. I call it communication circle, and they pair up, and I ask a question or give a topic, and one person's the listener, one person's the communicator. The listener's the thing gets them out of their comfort zone, because I say, how many times when somebody's talking are you just thinking about what you're going to say? And they're like,
Hmm.
every time. And I'm like,
Every
I'm
time.
going to challenge you. Cannot say anything while the other person's talking. I want you just to be there for them, be present. You can nod, give affirmative, facial expressions, but just be
Mm-hmm.
present. And they say that's the first time in their life they've ever listened that way. And then the person
Yeah,
speaking, I've never had anybody listen to me that way
listen to
before.
me that way. That's right. Exactly. Yeah, it's a beautiful experiment, but it's like it just goes to show. I mean, I can remember my grandmother. Our grandparents have always said things that were pretty profound, or we thought they were silly when they said it. It's like you got two ears and one mouth. What does that mean? Maybe I need to listen more,
Yep.
right?
Yep. That's a Greek.
And of
Yeah,
course,
that was a Greek philosopher, Epictetus, who said that first, right?
yeah, right. I think so. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so it's just so amazing. Like there's so many life lessons that have been passed down from millennia to millennia or generation to generation. And some of it we listen to and some of it we have forgotten. Um, and it's really not we don't have to abandon, like we don't, like I said in the beginning, we don't have to, revere the history in the past so much so that we go back to the past. It's not that. And so we don't need to be afraid of the future. Like Brother Namesh was talking about, we don't, technology is here. It's a mirror. It's a pathway, but it's not the only way. And I think that if we can choose to get
Hmm.
silent and think about who we need to be, how we need to develop and evolve while this is happening around us, then we have a better chance as humanity of creating a future that we want to be in, versus allowing a future to be dictated because we're afraid to listen, observe, take in the information, respond accordingly in a way that's going to help us move things forward. And so I think that this has been, as I said before, it's going to be a beautiful dance and a beautiful orchestra and that comes out of all this stuff, because at the end of the day, these weren't individual transmissions. They started off that way, but they all connected, and there's a common thread and theme that moves to all of it. So number one, thank you for articulating this last lens of voice. I think that brings everything together. So not that I knew you wouldn't, but I knew you were going to step up to the challenge of that, because that's why I chose you. So, but no, thank you for that. Thank you for saying yes to the journey. Thank you for continuing the work that you do, and just being a voice in your own community and network. I think that the more of us that are doing this and the more we're having these types of conversations and sharing these nuggets of wisdom without having to be performative, um, allows us to, number one, connect with the humans that we are engaged with and connecting with, but that we have a better understanding of what direction would best serve us. So I'm appreciative of you for being the voice that has brought much of this together, just in your own reflection and transmission. So thank you.
It's an honor. Yeah. Thank you for letting all of our voices be heard. Appreciate you.
Indeed. Absolutely. And now we're going to we're going to transition to the last transmission. Tongue twister here. But we're going to transition to transmission number 10. And this is around the lens of verification and the vow. And I'm going to bring my bald brother up to the stage. But let me tell you a little bit about my bald brother. I mean, obviously, if you're on this channel, you already know Dr. Smiley Ken Moshan. You know who he is. I had the pleasure of being connected to him through Jose Escobar, who was up here, who was voice number 8, and talking about virtue. And Dr. Smiley is a connector. He is a builder. He is a lover. He is all these things in this community. Yet he is a genuine human being who just happens to be bald. And but the energy that that I felt when I first encountered him, and just the resonance, and then the ensuing conversations that happened over time, the ask to, hey, can you be on this channel? Can you participate in this event? Because I think your voice needs to be heard, and just the opportunity that has been created through that connection. I could never thank him and or Jose enough for allowing me the opportunity to be on the stage, to share my thoughts, to share my wisdom, words, whatever that means, in a way that is meaningful, because all I want to do is make a positive impact in the world. And this opportunity to do this V-Day was made possible by this man who I'm bringing up now. And so Dr. Smiley Ken Rashan, we're going to be talking about the verification process, and we'll do this together, and in some form or fashion. But I am just honored that you said yes to this journey, to this proposal, that we had this conversation, and it has come together. And now it's down to us to talk about this last lens of verification. And we didn't practice this, so this is interesting, right? Because this is all organic, and I love that, because I think that's what this calls for. As
Did you practice it with others?
I've been practicing this all my life.
No, I'm
I
talking.
feel like.
Did you practice it with the other speakers?
No, exactly. No,
No.
I did not. I did not.
You picked them because they were verified,
right?
And you picked them because they validate love, and they are actually giving value to the world.
Yeah. And that is true. And I knew they had it within them to be able to do this with very little preparation. And because they would speak from the heart, they speak from experience, they would speak from what they witnessed. They would do it in a non-performative way, because I asked them to do it that way. Didn't have to be a keynote, didn't have to be polished. It just needed to be authentic, it needed to be real and human. And that's what we got. And so I could never be any more grateful for that. And so you're right. And
you want to hear a trip of this?
Yeah.
When you speak from the heart, you actually speak from the valve that pumps the blood to the heart. That is true. And
yes,
that blood is as true as you decide you want to be. And when you don't want to be true, you'll drift into chaos. You'll drift into actually a place that's very murky, and a place that doesn't actually give any validity or any of the V's that we've talked about today. It's
Mhm.
very interesting. Who do you stand for? Who is your V? Who are the people that when they say they need you to be them and you value them so high that a yes is a V with a Y? It's a V with a Y.
Mhm.
You say yes because you value them so high that you can't let them down because they've let you up so high. So,
Yeah.
Paul, I'm telling you, you're a very special person. We have 730 people on the Smile Channel, and you've broken the mold. You have asked me to do something that I had to ask myself, why wouldn't I? And I couldn't come up
Mhm.
with a reason. And it made me closer to God, and I'm already very close. You made me realize that you may see the answer, you may think the answer, but the answer could be way bigger, much bigger than where it is. And before you take off and allow me to speak my V, I just want to say it is crazy that 5 days ago, you came to me with an idea and a book that I said, I love it. I love it because in this world that we're just moving in, we're having storms and tornadoes and questions and chaos, and we don't know where it is. You're bringing a vision and a value and a vow and a voluptuous embracement of what humanity is. And God couldn't have made it simpler for me. He said V Day was celebrated in the state I was born in. There's not that many people that can say they were born in Rhode Island. I'm telling you, there's not that many. And I was born in that great state, and that great state is the great state of hope. It is a square flag. It's the only flag that's square. It says hope.
Mhm.
And you are my hope brother. You are the person that when I hear your voice, I feel hope. You're the person when I hear your voice, I say, I am hope with you. You're the
Mhm.
person that when you speak, I say you attract hope. And so for that reason, I'm here with love, the capital V in love, to say, I love what you're doing. I love who you're being, and I will stand with you.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you, my brother. And wow, I'm going to give you the stage because
I will take the stage and come back in like
Yeah.
6 minutes, 7 minutes. This is
Mhm.
this is just like all the other speakers. It's something that is just being spoken. I am blown away by what V is. I mean, think about a state of Rhode Island where they said, I need to serve in a military where only one state will say, I embrace V Day, the victory
Mhm.
of the war. And I wore this shirt for you today. It's interesting, but I wore this shirt. I was saving this shirt and I wore it because there's two V's in warrior. Are you a warrior
Mhm.
for humanity? Are you a warrior for love? Are you a warrior for victory? And your reason for doing this day is different than mine, but they are the same in that we both believe that they come together. They come together. And
Together. Mhm.
yours is about the verification and the I'll call it the virtuousness. Mine's about the victory and how you pursue your vision so high. And so they come together beautifully because when you do both, you actually live. You live. And
Mhm.
that V becomes a very big V in live, and it becomes a very big V in love. And Jose spoke of love, and every speaker you brought today, right here, brother, right here,
Mhm.
you brought it. But you have the relationship that I have with you that I say, you want to do this? Let's do it. Let's do it. So create relationships in your life that have so much value that when you go to someone, you say, this is my dream. This is my vision. This is the value I want to bring to the world. That someone says, yes, with a capital V,
Mhm.
capital Y, because a Y has a V. It
That's got to
just,
be in
it's
it.
interesting, but the Y in yes is actually the stand for the V.
Mm.
Isn't that crazy?
That's a crazy symbolism when you think
And I
about
usually like to go
it.
first because if I go first, I get to actually be done. But today I go last, and I go last to actually incorporate all the things I heard and all the beauty that I heard and all the symbolism in this community that we're creating called the Smile Channel. And I just want to share, if you are hearing this and you believe you should be on a stage with Paul, this is the seed of V. The seed of V is not vindictiveness. It's not vengeance. It's actually vitality. It's how big do you live with the most energy that impacts the world. The journey is so short. this short journey we have is a journey we choose to embrace how precious life is. And so I thank you, sir, for my platform serving you, but more importantly, that you brought delicious content to a platform that allows it to amplify the goodness of it.
Yeah. And I thank you, my brother. And I'm going to give you the stage now, and I will come back in 5-6 minutes. And
come back soon. This is not as long. I actually spent most of my time sharing what I've learned and what I've gleaned and how much I'm appreciative. So this is not about how long I'm on stage. It's about how much you do with the stage you have. All right.
100%. 100%. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you, my brother.
So my presentation today is about value more than anything. It's interesting, but if you think about value, it's about conversion. Conversion happens when value is high. If someone tells you that they cost $1,000 or $10,000 or $100,000 or even $1 million, is the value higher than what they charge? Paul and all the speakers today bring so much value. Some of the speakers today, they charge $35,000 to spend time with them. I promise you, this is not a lightweight crew that Paul attracted. And what's funny is that I know one of the speakers, I won't say any names because all of them could be that person, but one speaker in particular, he charges $35,000. Now, you could say, gosh, that's a lot of money. But if someone loaned you that money and you paid this person $35,000 and they made you $250,000 or $1 million, was that a lot of money? So I'm a publisher, but I'm a publisher that cares about amplifying goodness, about choosing the people that care about their message and are willing to fight for the message. It's not to say that a lot of authors don't care about their message, but let's be honest. If someone cares about their message, will they fight for it for 10,000 hours? Will they fight for it for 30,000 hours? I promise you, I fought for more than that. And I fight for people like Paul because it's not a fight. It's actually just living. Living is actually causing you to be purposeful, to actually enjoy life at a level that doesn't make sense. Every time I grow more, I say, wow. And a very special piece of this to me is that Jose was called or texted, and I said, I just need some bald people for a baldathon. And he says, let me give you these people. And he just very graciously gave me these people. And these connections were amazing. They were all speakers, coaches, advocates of a better life. But the number one thing they were is they were value. They were value. And I'll share something with you in the space of what I've studied about value. If you have content and it's not valuable, it will not convert. And if you make that content valuable and you couple it with the distribution, the man hours, the sweat and tears you have to put behind it to make it valuable, you get companies like Apple, you get companies like Google, you get companies like Southwest. And I'm just very clear that everything about the word value is virtue. And I want to share a couple things about what it is to have value. Value is to have a vision in which you share. The vision is not just a thought and a dream, but it's the commitment you put behind that vision to create reality. And a year ago, roughly, we had one show, and that show was to celebrate a smile. And I did my dissertation on what is your SPH? What is your SPH? What are your smiles per hour? And guess what? I'm a physics teacher. And so I cared about the velocity of good. And the velocity of good is actually how many smiles you create in per hour. Well, it's actually symbolic and also synonymous with the word value. If you're creating a lot of smiles per hour, think about Apple. I have a computer in front of me that should not be working right now. It's over 5 years old. It still works great. There's almost nothing wrong with it. I spent maybe $5,000 for this computer, and it was bought around the pandemic. And I look at this computer and I say, when am I supposed to replace it? And I don't know what day, because it's still working great. And Apple gives so much value. I thought about this today. I bought an Apple Watch. I bought an Apple iPad. I have spent maybe $100,000, potentially $200,000 in Apple products, because they never stop working, because they're committed to the value of the experience. And they sold a computer with experience. And I was thinking about my book called A Pocket Full of Gratitude. And I don't know what page it is, but anyone that wants any of my books or my son's books, my son is 13. His name's Kenny. He's written 14 books. He wrote a book about America. He sent it to President Biden, and President Biden's committee wrote back and said, we love this. And he got an invitation to the White House. And he talks about the value of a book, or what are you going to do with a book that's valuable? If you have the most valuable book in the world, but you don't put the velocity behind it, it will not become the value you wish it would be. And so I am being vulnerable when I tell you, you need to really step into your vision. Your vision is what God gives you. Your God's gift to giving a vision and stepping into what it is to actually have that vision, have the velocity to create value in the world. It's a pretty crazy formula, but it's actually, can't find anything wrong with it. And I'm writing in my new book. My new book is called 1%. And I've written 65 other books. And I don't recall any book cause anybody to feel like they're being pushed back. But my very first book that has a lot to do with Paul and Jose and people that spoke today is, are you able to speak on a stage about what value you bring? I've noticed that 99% of people, they're not bad people. They're not evil. They're not doing intentionally wicked things in the world. They're not being venomous, vindictive. But they don't know how powerful they are. And this site I showed at the very beginning called Veritasium is called the chemical of truth. And the best gift my dad ever gave me was, do you believe the bullshit that you say to me? And I'll give you the story. I was rushing out the door, and my dad asked me to take the trash out. And I said, Dad, I'm in college. I'm taking 28 credits. I got 3 part-time jobs. I don't have time to take the trash out. Gosh, do you understand how hard it is? And my dad said, hold on a second. And I said, sure, what? He says, I'm not concerned about the bullshit you share with me. I'm concerned about the bullshit you believe. And so, much like Dan said earlier, the biggest person you bullshit is yourself. And this V up here is, how valuable can you be in life? How much can you be the V with a stand underneath it for a yes? A yes for the valuable person that says to you, I have an idea. This idea is pretty cool. I've been thinking about it for 20 years, 10 years, 30 years, whatever. Would you stand with me? Would you be the other leg that I am? And Paul is that guy for me. His voice, his tonality is virtue. His tonality is conviction. And so this bald brother, who I never knew I'd be so close to, speaks a truth that resonates with my purpose. And so today you're here, the beginning of V-Day, from a state that gave 1/10 of its population to fight in the war. And we don't know if Rhode Island didn't give 1/10, would the war have been won? We don't know. We don't know these little things that happen, like Winston Churchill saying, V for victory, or V, I will never quit. And The Darkest Hour, I can't tell you how much that movie means to me, because that is what V means to me, is if you want to be victorious, you just don't quit. And don't quit means do what you believe in and never stop believing you can do it. So, Paul, I invite you back to the stage to say thank you and to say you matter and you have caused a beautiful, beautiful show to happen.
Thank you, my brother. I am almost speechless. But like you said, there's these opportunities, and I've always served, right? And we've talked about the military thing in the background, and about one of our models when I was in school in the academy was acting nonverbal. Deeds, not words. It's not what you say, it's what you do. And you had me on for the Baldathon and Carpe Diem Day, and it really was about taking action now, right, and not giving up, and just being there, showing up. And I feel like yes, there's so many things that we could be focused on right now, and I think that one of the most important messages was the question that I posed earlier was, if all these things can be manufactured, then what do we need to do? What do we have to become? And it's an interesting question to ponder, that we just, there's so many things that we worry about and focus on, but not to say that things are spiraling out of control or things are bad or happening, but can we have a conversation? And can we really talk about things that matter? And can we talk about it with all the masks down and all the shields down and all that? And if we can do that, and if we can find the common ground and commonality, and humanity is our commonality, the love that we share is our commonality. It's taken all of us many years to get to where we want. Some of us develop wisdom, some of us don't. And I've certainly never said that I've arrived anywhere other than the fact that I feel like I've been called to share this message and the time is right. And, you said yes. And I am ever so grateful for that piece. But I think more importantly, let's change this world. I think that's what your vision is change the world.
Inspire the world and change the world. The V I see right now is the V I want to be. And it's interesting, but we are a human race, but there's also other mammals. And all those mammals, when you give love to them, they act just the way humans do. They receive the love, they give love back. Look at a cat that you give love to, and you've never hurt them. They go openly on their back and they stretch their arms, and you go like this to their belly, and they purr. And a human is no different. Treat a human like the cat you love or the dog you love, because that human is not getting the just opening of love that you punish them for because some other human was bad.
Yeah.
And I think that this V Day, we talked in the backstage. I want to actually, with your permission, share the possibility of the opening of it being 52 weeks of V's for our next V Day. And do I have your permission?
Yep, please do. Yep, my permission.
Well, I mean, this happened just like 20 minutes ago, so I want to be
clear.
I
know. Yeah, we're not clear, but the clarity
Paul
comes.
And I are declaring. Paul and I are declaring that there's a V Day every day, but specifically we're going to celebrate it every Friday, which is the 5th day of the week. And if you'd like to apply for V Day Friday, you get 1 hour to share who you are and the 5 people that cause you to be who you are. The trick of this is that they do need to, 1, be alive, and 2, you need to convince us this show is worth producing. You need to show that you're playing big, that you are doing things that were caused and inspired by the people that you believed in. So it's not difficult for this show to be a yes for you. It's just that you do need to qualify that you are playing big. I can't make it clear enough to you. Paul did not come to me and say, I don't know you. Please believe me. He came to me and said, you've seen me. Would you like to believe what we can do next? And I said, yes. It was not too difficult, Paul. I wanted to believe you the second you said it. And I would have actually had to be convinced otherwise not to. But you are a man with tonality and wisdom and also action that causes the vow of value. God bless you.
And thank you, my brother. God bless you too. And this is just the beginning.
And by the way, thank you, Faison, again for creating this day and being the IT and being the person that believes in the journey of what it is to create smiles in the world. Thank you, Faison. Thank you, Paul. And Tanisha, thank you for trusting us to create a day that you allow us to say next year it will be the big day that you event plan. Thank you. All right. We're going backstage, Paul. I think he's closing out.